before. Sure. Oh, great.
Once I say go live, that means I'm pressing the button. All right, folks. Welcome to Irongeek cast number 189. ACB, easy as 1, 2, 3, parentheses, 2A parentheses. How's everybody doing?
I'm good. Explain your show title.
Well, you know the Jackson 5 song, right?
Yes, I'm aware of the Jackson.
And ACB is the initials of
Amy Coney Barrett.
Correct, who just became Supreme Court Justice. And a lot of people are pissed off that, the Girl Scouts just tweeted out something congratulating her, and it deleted it within 2 hours because apparently it was getting a lot of flack. So, depending on which side of the political spectrum you are, there's a lot of women complaining about her.
I just heard one that's actually pretty good on the same vein as ACB, better than RBG, getting you MAD. It's like,
okay, that's pretty good. But how's everybody else doing?
I'm doing all right. It's a typical week, man. Not much going on. Psyched for Halloween. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, is many people going to be out and doing parties or anything, though?
I don't think so. At least not by me. In some places, I'm sure they will. But by me, everyone's kind of paranoid about getting together, and social distancing needs to be done and all that shit.
I recently got that new Friday the 13th box set, so I'll have plenty to watch.
That's cool.
A lot of special features. It's got like
your friend's in there, right?
My friend, or
the actor who.
Well, he's not a friend. I don't actually know the guy. I just happened to get a signature at a drive-in theater once.
Oh, the way you talked about him, I thought he was like a friend of yours.
No, I just really like his movies, and I read his autobiography, Kane Hodder.
Cool.
Or actually, I should say I listened to his autobiography. I did that while hiking around.
Gotcha. So yeah, not really much new with me. You know, I'm still hanging out with that girl Kim I like, and doing stuff. Took her to a haunted house over the weekend in the city called Blood Manor. That was a lot of fun. It was only like 20 minutes, but it was still, pretty good haunted house. How about you, Barry? What have you been up to? Collecting turtles?
Well, actually, I just found another picture, and although those alligator snapping turtles are common to the Houston area.
Yeah, I've seen people do. I think it's called noodling in lakes and ponds and such to get fish. But I'd be afraid I'd reach my hand in and grab one of those fuckers because that thing can take a finger off.
They don't mess around.
Yeah, well, I mean, noodling, usually it's a type of catfish called a flathead, and they're in a hole. And so you find the hole, and hopefully you don't hit a water moccasin.
Oh, okay. But turtles aren't in those kind of holes?
No. They're snapping turtles are going to sit on the bottom, and they have a worm tongue. The alligator snapping turtle. They fish.
No.
It feels like it's a good time to show that I like turtles meme, but I don't have it handy.
But believe it or not, the Buffalo Bayou has maybe the largest population of alligator snapping turtles in the country.
Okay.
And it's right through the middle of Houston.
Yeah, my mom and dad used to go hunting snapping turtles. I don't know if it would be that same kind in like Kentucky. Mom would stick I think it was mom would stick a stick in its face, and dad would cut its head off with an axe. Then it'd have like turtle soup or whatever.
Well, it's probably a common snapper. That's a different type of. Well, it's a snapping turtle, but the alligator snapping turtles are, they sit on the bottom. They're not going to be moving around a lot like the common snapper. They're also not as destructive. The common snapper is going to attack ducks and attack and wipe out your fish in your pond. And they'll go, cross, they'll grow across land, from pond to pond.
I should have known when you picked a turtle for your icon that you would know something about turtles.
I used to catch them.
Yeah. Turtle. All right, guys. So we got some good stuff in the show notes, but Darren, you haven't said what you've been up to.
All right, just finished typing something out. I'm doing okay. Just kind of, same shit, different day. Just going through everything as I do. I bought a new laptop for my business because my old one died, so that was fun. But nothing really special going on here.
Yeah, I bought some crap at Micro Center today. I got 2 of those Google Home devices for
you dumb bastard. Yeah,
they're $20. It's like you can't beat that.
They're cheaper than
data. It's fun. Yeah,
because they're kind of fun. Which reminds me, I better turn this one the fuck off.
Okay, Google, turn off all lights.
The mic's off.
Okay, turning 10 lights off.
Whoops. I screwed myself there.
Most of my lights are pretty well off as it is.
Wow, this cam does pretty good in low light situations. I like that.
Set this device. Release to cancel.
What? I didn't mean. What the fuck? I'm not holding it.
Okay, Google, turn the lights red.
The mic's off.
Well, I bought a Google Mini and it never recognized my voice. It was defective.
You have to set up a voice profile, right? If you don't set up a voice profile, it doesn't understand you, right?
I did resets and everything. It just wouldn't work.
Well, resets aren't going to fix the voice profile stuff. You got to go into your profile and change the settings where it says voice print recognition, and then you talk to it for a little bit, and it recognizes your voice.
Oh, by the way, I put a link to what I bought in a Twitter group and asking me if you want to recommend a tool set for me to buy to actually work on that. Let me know.
You should buy all the things. So I bought some of those Raspberry Pi Ws also, and I got some camera modules laying around. Make some little tiny IP cameras, and I don't know what I'm going to do with them yet, but I'm going to have them. So yeah, I was just watching Live Overflow on YouTube. This is pretty cool breakdown where somebody finds a Raspberry Pi on a campus, and it seems to be like doing some network sniffing or something, and he's not sure what it's doing, so he reaches out to Live Overflow, and then he kind of takes the thing, gets an image of it, and goes through it and figures out what it is. It's a pretty neat little teardown, I guess you'd call it. I like that guy's stuff. He does good work.
Well, have you heard that they've released the Raspberry Pi Compute Module 4?
Yeah, but what I don't get is why it only fits in a DDR2 slot. Why would you want something? Who's still got DDR2 slots on the computers? Everyone's up to like 4 now.
No, they got a new interface module, and so it's not DDR2. It's not a SODIMM slot anymore.
What slot does it go in? Does it go in PCI or?
It's a high density connectors. There's 2 of them.
So it's a new specific connector just for the Pis. So like you got to get a new MOBO that will just do that.
Just for the Compute Pi 4, but it's the exact same Raspberry Pi as the 4B.
That's cool. Yeah, I've wanted to play with those in the compute modules. I just don't really have the hardware to do it yet. Last time I looked at it, I wasn't even sure what interface it used. Then it said that it was like it was the same interface that the RAM used to take, and I was like, that makes no sense. So
it is not a SODIMM slot.
I get that now, but it looked like it back then. Anyway, moving forward, Adrian, why don't you share the screen that I've got shared?
Oh, yes. Add that to stream.
Very good. So these are our notes, and if you are interested in any of the articles you see here, you can go to our show notes. The link is in the YouTube chat or the YouTube channel, and you can essentially get all these articles, send them to your boss, do whatever you want to do with them. We collect them every week so that you guys can kind of know what's going on in InfoSec. So it's a pretty good resource if you want to just steal some of this stuff. Like at my job, every Friday we do threat intel. So I usually get my stuff on Wednesday, work on it Thursday, and then on Fridays I'll present something. And a lot of these things would be good for presenting on like threat intel stuff. So it's a good resource to have. So starting off, we got an article, hacker steals 24 million from a cryptocurrency service called Harvest Finance. And then he returned 1.5 million. Oh, sorry, he returned 2.5 million. Yep. And you guys cannot see that article because I only shared a tab. Crap. Give me 1 second, Adrian. I got to fix this.
I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I just got to fix it. 1 sec. There. That'll do. Okay, share that one.
All right.
All right. So this hacker steals 24 million, right? So there's this decentralized DeFi service called Harvest Finance. It's got a web portal, and users can invest in different cryptocurrencies and then farm the price variations for small profits. That's the way their site works. It's not like your typical crypto exchange, but it's a little different. The hack took place on October 26th, and it was immediately confirmed by Harvest Finance administrators in a message that they posted on the company's Twitter account and their Discord channel. The hacker invested large quantities of cryptocurrency assets in the service and then used a cryptographic exploit to siphon the platform's funds into their own wallet. That's pretty clever. I'm not even sure how that would work, but it sounds pretty smart. All in all, they stole like $13 million of USD coin, which I actually have some of that, and $11 million worth of Tether, which I haven't heard of. And it, according to a transaction ID singled out by the Harvest Finance administrators. And then they did a postmortem investigation. About 2 minutes after the attack, for whatever reason, the hacker decided to return 2.5 million back to the platform. But his reasoning is unclear why he did that. The company claims they know who the attacker is, and they're giving him time to return the money, and they're asking that people don't dox him in the meantime. I don't know. If they really knew who he was, wouldn't they maybe go to the police or something instead of saying, we know who you are, just return it and everything will be fine? What I'm thinking happened is maybe somebody posted something about this cryptographic exploit in maybe one of their forums, and then somebody actually used that exploit to take money from them, and now they know who did the post and they have that info, but I'm not really sure that's what happened. I'm just guessing. Here we do not have any interest in doxing the attacker. Whoa, there's you've proven your point. You can return the funds to the users. It would be greatly appreciated by the community. We made an engineering mistake. We own up to our mistake. Thousands of people are acting as collateral damage. They're offering a $400,000 bounty to return the millions and millions of dollars. So after the first 36 hours, the bounty will be lowered to $100,000. I don't think the person who's got a couple of million out of this is really worried about that. They're like, please don't dox the attacker. We strongly advise focusing all efforts on ensuring that user funds are successfully returned to the deployer. I don't know. It sounds sketch to me. Maybe it's an inside job or something, but something seems off. Remember, like with those big crypto exchanges like Mt. Gox, when they got a lot of their money taken multiple times. If you listen to the what's it called, Darknet Diaries podcast, there's a whole thing on that, and a lot of people thought it was essentially the admin who just ran off with the money, but it turned out he had made several little mistakes that added up over time. This could be something like that. You never know. Anyway, we'll see. That's a developing story. Next, we've got some kind of political stuff. The Trump campaign website was hacked, which is always kind of funny when politicians' websites get hacked, whether they're Democrats or Republicans. So a message on the site said the world has had enough fake news spread by the president and threatened to release dirt they claim to have on the Trump family. The website, when it was hacked, actually kind of looks like a DMCA takedown notice if you look at it. It's, I think, made intentionally to look like that. So
they got both major candidates this year. So I would seem to recall something a little bit later in the summer where they got some information off of Biden's site.
Yeah, and there was another thing with some app that was designed for Trump supporters who want to date each other, where all the info was leaked from that app. Leaky API shit that like anybody could pull down anybody else's info. But yeah, it's always interesting when political stuff like websites get hacked. Although technically, like defacing websites is kind of like 1999. You don't really see it too often anymore, but it's around. So it says this site was seized at donaldjtrump.com, and they have information that discredits the president and his family, and they demand cryptocurrency.
Yeah, bullshit. They've been looking so hard at him for so long. If they had anything that was actually make a difference at this point, they would have shown it.
Yeah. So it's unlikely that people who just managed to hack a website randomly, which was probably like some WordPress some intern threw up, are going to be in possession of some damning evidence on the president. But strange things have happened. So back in July, some hackers got numerous Twitter accounts, including those of Joe Biden and Barack Obama, in a different scam. That kid in Florida, he was in court for getting caught for that, and a whole bunch of people burst into the courtroom, not the real courtroom, but the virtual Zoom courtroom. Essentially, Zoom bombed his trial, and then they had to postpone it. That was pretty funny. A Florida teenager was charged in that one. We don't know who did this one. Maybe it's a different Florida teenager. Who knows? Apparently, there are hackers in Florida. Cyber criminals step up their game ahead of the U.S. elections. This kind of goes with the last article, so that's why I moved it up here. It used to be on the bottom. So, ahead of the November U.S. election, cyber criminals are stepping up their offensive in both attack against security infrastructure and disinformation campaigns. But this time, social media giants, the government, and citizens are more prepared. Are they, though? Are they? So we've seen attacks on the DNC in 2016, right? A lot of data leaked in that one. And this year, we are seeing some questions about the integrity of the voting machines. Remember the DEF CON village where that 13-year-old girl managed to do an SQL injection on a voting machine? That was kind of cool. So according to Talos, well, technically, according to Matt Olney, who's the director of Talos, a bunch of cyber criminals are going after the minds of American people and in their trust in the democratic institutions that we use to select our leaders. Who's breathing so heavy? It's like Darth Vader over there. All right. The good news is that awareness of election security threats has increased, and both on the part of the federal government as well as U.S. citizens themselves, they're getting better at calling out content that can be associated with disinformation campaigns. Speaking of potential disinformation, you guys heard about the whole Hunter Biden laptop thing, right?
Right.
Like a week old news at this point, but maybe even 2 weeks old. But
Yeah, I noticed.
a lot of people now are claiming that it's a Russian disinformation campaign.
Yeah,
It's clearly not. I mean, it's just
they released plenty of photos and videos and other shit. And in InfoSec, it seems to come down to whether or not you like Biden or Trump, or what you fucking believe on that.
I don't like either of them, but I think the whole thing with the laptop is probably not bullshit. But I think Rudy Giuliani getting himself interjected into the middle of it somehow by getting possession of the laptop.
Apparently, he was
everything.
somehow one of the people that was contacted by whoever had possession of it originally, and he is
The shop owner who's like legally blind who was like, I should contact the authorities, and what authority he decided to contact was Rudy Giuliani.
Actually, my understanding, he also gave it to the FBI first. I believe that's the case. But then and on it, and he didn't hear anything, so he gave it to Giuliani. That is my understanding from the various video casts I've listened to.
Yeah, that was Tim Pool, right?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. So I remember Tim Pool was also saying something about how the FBI person who got the laptop pretty much exclusively deals with I don't want to spread that rumor, but it you can look into it if you're interested, and yeah, it's interesting stuff. So moving forward about the upcoming election, there's a whole bunch of disinformation campaigns. We got Russians and Chinese and all sorts of people claiming that, essentially claiming attribution for things, pretending to be other people, doing like false flag stuff, like saying that they're the Proud Boys when they're not, and then taking credit for screwing with the left somehow, or the opposite way around, or like they pretend to be some left group like Antifa and claim responsibility for something that, you know, it's all like disinformation and like fake accounts, and it's a lot of messed up shit. So there's also, of course, the concern about hacking into actual election systems and changing votes. I don't think that's as likely as people seem to think it is going to happen, but I mean, it technically could happen. I mean, a lot of those things are pretty insecure. I think we should definitely have like a backup copy of everything, where if we're going to go digital, we should have like a paper thing get printed out as well for each vote. Just my thought. Have a hard copy.
How much of that do you think is left-hand, right-hand stuff? Like, pay attention to cyber. Meanwhile, we've got all these hand count votes being mailed in that we're going to dork around with.
I think a lot of the there was a video I saw, right? And there's a guy counting votes, and he's sitting at a table, and he's in a room with a whole bunch of other people counting votes, and you see him pull out a ballot from the pile, and he looks at it, and apparently it looks like the person did not fill in all the information. He takes a pen and starts filling in boxes, and it's pretty apparent he's not supposed to be doing that.
Yeah.
He could be changing votes for all we know, but
you've got to expect that. Right now, everything is so emotionally charged out there, and people are so riled up for various reasons. It would surprise me if that kind of stuff didn't happen. I mean, in the current socio-political environment, can you honestly tell me that you have 110% trust in the person sitting there hand counting paper ballots?
Yeah.
And not do something like that?
People going out ballot collecting, as far as
yeah, that was another typical thing where he was talking about the Project Veritas stuff going on, where they released a report. Look, I don't like Project Veritas, to be honest. I think they've done some shady shit in the past. The video they released is pretty damning, though, with the interview with that woman where she just claims that she admits essentially that she was going to like old people's houses and giving them gifts in order to get them to change who they were going to vote for. And she was paid by a Republican, but for some reason was getting them to change their votes to Democrats and that Republican, which made very little sense to me, but whatever. That stuff is kind of sketch, so I wouldn't put too much weight behind it, but it's still interesting.
I just don't think there's any single aspect of this election that isn't sketch.
A lot of it's sketch. Like the mail-in ballots, they're saying like if it gets to the election office the day after the official election date, they're not going to count it, even if it was like postmarked before then. And post offices are closed down in some places and not sorting mail properly, and it's a whole clusterfuck.
Did you hear about the reversal that the post office did with that? There was a story a few months ago about ahead of the election, they were shutting down a bunch of automated postal sorting machines.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then all of a sudden they said, "Oh, we're putting them back now."
Yeah, but a lot of them they had like ripped out essential parts and
right, exactly.
The whole thing, and like they just destroyed them. It's like they wanted to remove them and they didn't know how, so they just like took a fucking sledgehammer to them.
you're talking about government surplus. I mean, that's par for the course.
Yeah.
I could tell you stories about government surplus that would make you cry in your Wheaties. I mean,
Well, I remember there was one thing with that where a guy who's like a postmaster at a small town, they took out his machine and like they put it in the back and they told him he couldn't use it and he didn't have enough people to sort the mail and he's like, screw this, and he got a bunch of guys and they put the thing back and they were trying to write him up essentially for it, be like, get rid of that guy for putting the machine back. Meanwhile, nobody was getting their mail for like a week because they only had like 10 people in the post office and there was nobody, not enough people to sort all that mail by hand,
The two easiest ways to get in trouble in a .gov job is to either do your job or do the right thing. And you're guaranteed you're going to get your ass kicked if you do either one of those two things.
I mean, we've also seen postal service employees just dumping tons of mail in dumpsters, and among that mail was ballots. So that turned out not to be politically motivated, but the post office employee was just a lazy bastard and didn't want to deliver the mail. Apparently, he'd done it multiple times before with other mail. It was just this happened to catch somebody's eye because they saw a ballot in the trash.
Yeah, somebody was making a comment about how the mail-in vote is going to cause various issues. Apparently, some people aren't doing it exactly right as far as putting in a security envelope or something. So those might get tossed out. If you don't fill out things quite right, they might get tossed out. And also, apparently, some people have been sanitizing the ballots.
Oh, no.
Which, of course, makes the ink run and fucks things up. Then there's the issue that apparently people are thinking more Democrats than Republicans are going to do a mail-in vote. So not only will it be delayed, but those various problems I just mentioned might affect the Democrats more. Regardless, we're not going to know on the 4th who actually run, and regardless, I'll probably not know. And
it's going to be like Bush with the Florida recount. There's going to be that over and over again.
God.
They're both going to keep challenging shit.
I still understand why Biden's doing better as well as it is in the polls, because I've been watching a video of the various rallies or speeches, and he doesn't have much attendance. But then again,
it's not that Biden is a great leader. It's that a lot of people just really dislike Trump.
Yeah.
It's like they don't like him as a person. They might like some of his policies, but as a person, they just don't want him in office.
Kamala also comes off creepy to me. Like, when you get her awkward question and she laughs like the Joker.
Well, Kamala's interesting. I'm surprised she accepted to be the VP because, running for the VP, because she really wanted to be president. And
well, considering how old Joe is and how he doesn't seem to be necessarily doing that well, she might still be president.
True.
No, she will be. If Biden wins in 6 months, she'll be the president. I guarantee that's what will happen. Possibly. But to kind of visit your point, AP, you're right about .gov. My last job was working for the state of Texas, and holy shit, I got yelled at for trying to stand up a server that was going to make things easier for us because the director thought I was going against him because of the tool I was installing on it. And I was like, no, this is a free, useful tool. Why are you getting so ass blasted over this?
Government, man. Everything's got to be approved. Everything needs written up. If you install a tool that's not approved, you have gone outside the scope of your agreement.
Well, it's free open source, so it's like, okay.
It doesn't matter what
it doesn't matter if it's open source, closed source, or up your ass source.
If you
don't have the approval for it, if it hasn't gone through scrutiny, and you don't have your DD 666 filled out correctly, forget it.
In military stuff, right? I've never been in the military. I was not able to serve because I'm nuts. But I have friends, and one of my coworkers, Eric, he was in the Air Force, and he wrote a tool that was essentially a script that would do a lot of the automated stuff that people would have to do over and over again every day. But you can't install anything on these machines. So it eventually became known that this script existed, and people started using it to automate all that stuff, but they weren't technically installing it on the system. It was just there, and it could run as a user, right? Because you're not installing it. It's running in user land, whatever. And years later, after he left doing this, he ran into somebody who worked at that post, and they mentioned that script to him. They're like, oh, like Stride. His last name is Stride, and they like that tool, and he was the one who wrote it, and they put two and two together and realized they were essentially still using a tool the guy wrote like 10 years ago, and now became SOP use his tool because you could not do a lot of the functions. You could do them, they just be very time consuming. So his tool automated a lot of that. And, I think, but when people try to do that kind of stuff in government, by automating that job, you're taking away three random dudes' jobs who are just going to sit there doing menial stuff. Right? Automation is bad in government because you're reducing jobs sometimes. So it's like it can be looked down upon by people like, oh, you made this easier. Well, now I have all this budget money and all these people working for me, but now they got nothing to do because you just automated it. So that's my experience with government. I worked for a local government in the county that I live in. So I was a contractor. So I didn't work directly for the government. I worked for a company that was hired and put me in different places. Worked in the data center. I worked doing direct tech support. I worked at the help desk. Wherever they needed me, they'd send me. So one day I'm help desk. The next day I'm server check. Doesn't matter. Wherever you need to be. All right, moving forward. We got a lot of stuff to cover here, and I like to get off topic. We're going to talk about now how some Russian hackers breached some U.S. government networks. And it goes in well with what we've been talking about. So this is by Catalin Simpanu. He writes a lot of the great articles that I steal. The U.S. government said today that Russian state-sponsored hacking group has targeted and successfully breached U.S. government networks. Government officials disclosed the hacks in a joint security advisory published by the CISA and the FBI. They identified the Russian hacker group Energetic Bear, who's also known as Temp.Isotope, Berserk Bear, Team Spy, Dragonfly, Havocs, and Crouching Yeti and Koala. Why do we have so many different companies giving different names to different threat actors? Just pick one.
Because they can.
Like I think Mandy had started this crap, and then everybody jumped on board, and now everybody's got their own name for every app that they find. And then they realized, oh, this app that I've named Berserk Bear is actually Energetic Bear. It's the same. That's stupid. Like the bear part, that means what country, right? So I guess this country calls it Yeti. So stupid. Anyway, officials said the group has been targeting dozens of U.S. state, local, and territorial and tribal government networks since about February. Also, companies in the aviation industry were targeted, and they successfully compromised network infrastructure and exfiltrated data from at least 2 victim servers. The intrusions detailed in the advisory say it's a continuation of attacks detailed in previous advisories. And those previous advisories talked about how hackers had breached U.S. government networks by combining VPN appliances and Windows bugs. So essentially, you get on the network through the VPN, and then you zero login into the domain controller, and now you own everything. Today's advisory attributes those intrusions to Russian hacker groups, but provides additional details about the tactics used by Energetic Bear. They're also targeting your internet-connected networking gear. They're using the Citrix ADC vulnerability that David Kennedy wrote an exploit for, and they're using some Exchange vulnerabilities, some XSIM vulnerabilities, some Fortinet VPN stuff, and of course, like I said before, zero login once they're in the network because it makes life so much easier if they haven't patched the domain controller in the past month. You just essentially pop the domain controller right away without having to screw around in userland for a little while, running tools like SharpHound and then like importing that data into some graphing software, whatever, Bloodhound. In situations where the attack succeeded, the hackers moved to steal files from government networks based on the information they received. The 2 agencies said that they exfiltrated some sensitive network configurations and passwords, the SOPs, such as enrolling in MFA, IT instructions, such as requesting password resets. That's always fun when the dudes doing the password resets don't check, and then you just mail them from like a Gmail account with the user's name, and it'd be like, hey, I forgot my password, and they just help desk monkey doesn't care. He's like, okay, click this link to reset your password, and they send it out, and now you're in. That's really like stupid social engineering that tends to work. So the FBI and the CISA have no information to indicate that this actor has intentionally disrupted any aviation, education, election, or government stuff, but they're in the networks, right? God knows what they're doing in there. If they're just gathering intel or if they're planning an active attack, who knows? They also screwed around with the San Francisco airport earlier this year because why not, right? So that's that article. Any questions, comments? We'll talk about bears, all the different kinds of bears that are attacking all our computers.
I think that's just, maybe they make up their own names. Who knows? I don't know. They have teams that do that stuff.
I know. It just seems like the teams don't talk to one another.
Well, it's a competitive industry. They want to be the ones who named it and found it and did this and did that. And
it's like
anyone else is just copying off of us, obviously.
Right. It'll be like we discovered these TTPs and we think they belong to this attacker, and we have named this attacker Stupid Bear. Right. And another company has those same TTPs and they've named it Clever Bear. And Stupid Bear or Clever Bear are actually the same freaking thing, but they don't talk. Left hand doesn't talk to the right hand,
Well, of course they're not. These are, again, they're competing companies. They want to be the one on top. They want to be the one that say, we found it first and we named it. It's ours.
Right. We have things like OTX and MISP, right? And we're supposed to be sharing information, even if we anonymize that, so that we can all be on the same page.
Yeah, right. And Tinkerbell is going to come down and sprinkle titty dust on the computer. We're all going to fly to Never Neverland. We are not all on the same page. We're not sharing information. These people are InfoSec companies out to make money for their shareholders. Period. End of story. It's nice to think that way. And maybe in some little dusty corner, there's some hackers left who think that way. And, we're sharing this for the betterment. I mean, the CTI force is a great example of that. But the thing is, when it comes to business and industry, we found it, we named it, it's ours. Let's put our name on it. Let's put our nickname on it. And let's just take that to the bank.
Well, there's also Circle, right? They put out the MISP stuff, and they share a lot of stuff. Like if you look at the stuff they put out on their platform, you get a lot of TCPs about different threat actors and all sorts of really good intel that you can incorporate into like a SIEM or any number of devices. So it's good to have. I mean, like some companies charge for threat intel stuff too. Like if you want to get a good feed, I did
Sorry.
that. Good.
Try muting when you're about to do that.
So some companies charge for like threat intel. So say you're setting up Security Onion, which is a great product when you can get it to work. So say you set this up, right? And during the install, you have an option between like 3 or 4 different feeds. And these feeds, some of them cost money. You got to put a key in there that proves that you purchased access to that feed. Otherwise, you're not using the free stuff. And the free stuff has some really great stuff in there. Don't get me wrong, but it tends to be about 2 weeks behind the non-free feed. So you're getting some older stuff, right?
And that's how they sell it. Give us money, you get it now, or wait 2 weeks and get it in the community feed.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, everyone did that. Hell, even what the hell is that thing called? And most of the SIM tools will still do that. This is our community feed. It's a free version. It's watered down. If you want to give us some money, hey.
What was the feed that they use? Threat intel feeds. Just curious. Oh yeah. So
FireEye is one of the big ones, right?
Yeah. So there's a snort feed that you can subscribe to, but you have to have like snort.
Dude, your formatting is giving my OCD some problems.
My formatting?
Yeah.
Dude, it's pretty freaking simple.
But but you don't always do it consistently. Like this one. But are you doing in edit mode or read mode?
As always, I'm in edit mode. And if you look at, because you're probably in read mode and you're seeing an old version.
No, I'm in edit mode. I just
All right.
press stuff above.
So look, it goes A, and then A is the title, and then 1, and 1.
I just noticed a few.
I,
That's
and
weird.
I is the article. And it's that way all throughout the freaking thing. And it's all formatted nicely and
All right,
very
continue.
I don't know what your problem is with the formatting. You need to
It's always mostly fixed now, but yeah, continue.
all right.
Everett, I'll chip in $5 and get him a bag of weed.
We need to, yeah. I don't think that's strong enough. Oh, I came across the weirdest file today. It was a PDF file put out by somebody calling themselves Anonymous. And it was about how to make drugs in your house with things that are around your house. And I just read it because I thought it was hilarious. People were going to try this shit. I would never try any of that shit. But it's like talking about making like taking DMX from cough syrup and like essentially boiling the water out of it and then consuming it. It's like
robo tripping. Hello, welcome to 1990.
All right, well, whatever. I don't subscribe to any of those methods, but I thought the book was interesting.
It sounds like someone's trying to capitalize on the old, all those books like the Poor Man's James Bond and the Anarchist Cookbook and all that.
Oh, it was definitely in the style of the Anarchist Cookbook. It was that kind of book.
What is it? Paladin Press and Lymphatics made a lot of those, and you can find downloads of them online.
If you're lucky, you'll find a download that hasn't been stomped on and someone screwed the stuff up intentionally, so you blow yourself up.
Yeah. You have to watch out for PDF files now because depending on what you're reading them in, you can be opening shells on your system.
Yep.
So like there are a lot of exploits with PDFs. If you're using like an old version of Acrobat Reader, they can easily pop you. Even if you're using Foxit, you think you're clever. There are exploits on both Foxit and Adobe. So you got to watch yourself. And PDFs can be bad. Next, we've got, I forgot to share my screen again. So just 1 second. Bring back up the show notes. Very good. All right. I could probably use a different browser when I do this so I don't leak all my PII, but I do it anyway because I'm lazy. I'm sure there's some hacker out there who hates me going through all the different things I leak, just compiling a list to screw with me later.
But isn't that what it's all about?
It is. It's like, look at all this info you leaked. Let me screw with you. App window. Let's do that. All right. So you guys should have the window shareable now, Adrian, where you can pop it back up. Very good. All right. So we talked about the Russian hackers. Next, we've got the U.S. sanctions Russian Research Institute behind the Triton malware. And there was actually a good thing in the Darknet Diaries that most recently came out about the Olympics, which was also, I believe, the same group. Very, very good listen if you have the time, like 45 minutes, you should listen to it. So sanctions were levied today against the State Research Center of the Russian Federation, FGUP, Central Scientific Research Institute of Chemistry and Mechanics. That's a mouthful. In the FireEye report, they identified this place as the author of the Triton malware. The Triton malware, also known as Trisis or Hatman, is some malware designed to mess with ICS stuff, namely the Schneider Electric Triconics Safety Instrumented System, or SIS controllers, as opposed to DOM controllers. And according to technical reports, FireEye, Dragos, and Symantec, the malware was distributed from phishing campaigns. It would infect the workstation, and then that workstation would start scanning the network looking for SIS controllers on the network, and then it would modify them and screw with them. Very similar to what was done a number of years ago with that hack on the nuclear enrichment facility with the Stuxnet. Thank you. Brain fart there. Should have had that one right on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, similar kind of way of doing it, right? So essentially, that now instead of using a USB drive, the delivery mechanism and email, then it's going to get in, scan, automate the process of hacking the stuff. So essentially, you don't need to like have a whole C2 infrastructure. It does it automatically. Next, I'm going to talk about some stuff that affects Israel. Over 100 irrigation systems were left exposed online without a password. Now, if you're into farming, you probably know what an irrigation system is. I'm not into farming, so I have to rely on the article to tell me what it is. But they were all running the same thing. Go ahead.
It's a giant pipe with water in it. I mean,
yeah,
it's not rocket science.
Well,
I mean, everything is automated to one way or another right now. But really, seriously, you lay some pipe, you pump water into it. It's like your sprinkler system in your home. You know, it turns on, it turns off, it turns on, it turns off. Water gets sprayed on the fields. Have a nice day.
Yeah, you said lay some pipe.
I did.
What if you're an attacker and you say you're like from Palestine and you hate Israel? So you're just going to go and turn these on all the time so that it drowns the fields, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a number of attacks against those kind of systems are common.
Right.
And a lot of those systems are legacy systems, so there's no protection for them. And nobody wants to do the, dance with the virtual machines and the firewalling and all the happiness.
Yeah, it's just been sitting unpatched for years. Internet exposed.
I mean, if you really hate Palestine that much, you drop a fucking bomb on their field. You don't fuck with their water. But, hey.
Right. So these things were so insecure that they were connected to the internet, didn't require a username or password, and would let you turn them on or off. And the guy found about 100 of them on Shodan, most of them being in Israel. That's pretty much the whole article.
And, the funny thing is, people still laugh at me when I say, I'm doing an audit or I'm doing some kind of thing. And the first thing I do is let's find the Shodan, IP ranges and block them. And they're like, ha, 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 you're so funny. You're so paranoid. And then look at this.
Yeah, look at this shit. So you got all these ones right near each other, all exposed, right? And all you got to do is go to the IP address for it, and then you get the dashboard. And from the dashboard, you can do all sorts of shit.
There's a special name for those kind of things. All those remote control. What are they called?
Internet of shit.
No, that's IoT. That's like your washer and dryer, fucking hacking the dishwasher. The industrial level stuff, the automated controllers and shit.
Industrial control systems.
SCADA.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
There's
been problems with SCADA, for forever.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is embedded stuff, that's never updated, and it's a matter of time until somebody finds something for it.
How can you honestly be consuming oxygen and think that putting up a system that controls something with no user ID and no password is a good thing?
Because it's meant to be exposed only to the local host, but these idiots put it on the internet.
Right, like I'm saying, how can you do that?
It's something that only happened with one dude. It seems to have happened to all these different hundreds of people who tend to be actually geographically near each other, which makes me think it might be the same person who owns all this area.
If it was 1989,
yeah,
I would believe this, okay? But we're in 2020. We've heard about the internet. We know that passwords are a good thing. We know what a user ID is. It's not like leaving Bluetooth turned on your phone and getting goat seed transmitted to you at a bar anymore, There's no excuse for this shit happening in 2020.
I had a friend who claimed once that he was hacking around, he was screwing around with NRF Connect while he was on a plane, and he connected to the smartwatch of the person in front of him and kept annoying him because he was snoring or something. I don't know.
I just bought I got a Bluetooth headset here, and I turned on Bluetooth on my computer, and I got 26 Hue light bulbs.
Wow.
Okay, and I'm like, the fuck, I'm sure I haven't dicked with them yet, but you're goddamn right I'm going to dick with them.
Oh, I got a bunch of them now. I got the cheapest ones I could find on Amazon just for the purpose of I'm going to dick with them.
Well, I'm sure there might be some security that'll connect me from immediately connecting to them, but, damn it.
Well, they're controlled by an app, right? And the app is on the internet, but these things are on the LAN. And if I'm away, I'm not at home, I can still turn them on and off. So there's got to be an API somewhere, and I want to screw around and see how secure that API is, and how it authenticates and what it takes,
Yeah, well, I mean that's the homebrew stuff. That's the Internet of shit that
Right.
punches holes in your firewall that you don't know about. It's like, oh, I have to open your firewall in order to make this work. No, you don't. And then Barbie and Ken go, oh, yes, you do. Look, I can turn the lights on in my bathroom with my iPhone when I'm out doing coke off a toilet seat at the club. And, wow, they think that's so impressive. And meanwhile, you're walking through their firewall and, selling off their eBay collectibles.
Yeah, UPnP is always really posed quite the problem. It's on a lot of home networks. You don't see it too often in corporate, but it can cause all sorts of shit where you did not forward a port, but now that port is forwarded, and you can't do shit about it.
I used to love using Google Dorks to look for people who had put home SaaS machines up on the internet without configuring the software. And
yeah, there's QNAP stuff right now that's RCE that you can pull down.
You just run a Google Dork, and next thing you know, you've got 2 days worth of somebody else's shit to look through.
Right. If you looked into Shodan CLI, if you have like an API key, how that costs a shit ton of money if you want to pull down a lot of stuff, and like this uses it all through the web UI and pulls it down the same way. It ends up looking the same way as the API pull downs do. So it takes a little longer to run, but you can grab a whole crap load of stuff from Shodan and store it in a file without having to use their API and the API keys. It's cool. Anyway, Shodan CLI. Shodan-CLI. It's cool shit. That's on, that's off. All right. So yeah, I got some internet shit in my house now, and it's probably making me very, very insecure. But it's fun, and I can say, okay, Google, turn lights blue, and my lights might turn blue if Google recognizes what the hell I said.
Oh, you have more fun than that. You run up to somebody with a phone and go, okay, Google, safe search off, goatsy.
Oh fuck.
You just yell that out loud in public and see what happens.
Icon 3 on the website google.com.
No!
Settings.
Bad Google!
Filters section. To turn on safe search, check the box next to filter explicit results.
See, it doesn't do it now.
Uncheck the box next to.
I ain't unchecking the box. Okay, Google, shut up. Anyway, I should turn that off during the cast.
You mean that just worked after what I said?
It did not work, but I tried to. But it
no. But I mean, it responded to me saying that.
Yeah, it'll respond to it. It's designed to respond to guests as well as you. So you it's supposed to respond to you, but it's
okay.
Also,
Google Brazilian cake fart porn.
God damn it!
My apologies. I don't understand.
Good.
Okay, Google Brazilian cake fart porn.
God damn it! And make me turn off my stupid OK Google. I'll kill you. No, now my phone's doing it.
Understand. The mic's off.
Yeah, that one triggered my phone also.
God damn it!
Look at me!
Disturb mode.
I am an elite hacksaw. Woohoo!
Yeah, I deserved that.
Eat your heart out, Peter Shipley.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, we talked about the irrigation systems a bit. They got owned. So luckily a security researcher was the one who found this, and he contacted them. But otherwise, it could have been bad, man. Could have been very bad. So, Kashmir Black botnet attacks a bunch of CMSs. So if you want a botnet, right, things got to be able to spread. Because wow, I'm hearing myself in an echo, and it sucks. So it's got to be able to spread. And in order for that to happen, you have to have either some 0 days or 1 days, or even just some reliable exploits that will work against a bunch of shit. So the Kashmir Black botnet is going after some WordPress stuff. If you remember from the last cast, there was a WordPress vulnerability that was so bad, WordPress was like, screw this, 100,000 people use this. We're just going to patch it. We don't care what you think. So there's a lot of WordPress vulns out there. If you go and go on WP Scan, the website or the tool, you can find lots of stuff about WordPress vulns. Joomla also has a bunch of vulnerabilities. Drupal. And vulnerabilities tend not to be in the products themselves, but sometimes they are in them, but in the plugins that people will install within them. So like somebody's got WordPress and they're running some Sketch plugin they found on the Pirate Bay, and it's got a web shell in it. That's a real bad example. But less sketch would be somebody installs a plugin from what they think is a reputable store, maybe it even is, but then somebody finds an exploit for it, and it takes them a while to update it. So you got a couple of weeks where you can just use this exploit to pop WordPress instances.
Last week I found a great little WordPress scanner out there just in the open space. And what it basically did was it enumerated all of the plugins and their effective dates and stuff. And it was like, oh, look, here's 26 plugins that are 2 years out of date.
Yeah, like WP Scan will do that, but if you want the more detailed stuff, you have to put in an API key, and you only get 20 calls a day.
If I'm after one site, I only need one call.
Right. If you're doing a pen test, you're only going to be going after one site. So,
yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'm doing a pen test. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can't say, hey, if you're hacking some shit you found, because then the FBI comes. All right. So Cashmere Black, right? It's a botnet. It's been around since November of 2019. Some researchers found that the botnet's purpose seems to be just to infect websites and then use their servers for some crypto mining. And then they'll redirect legitimate traffic on the site to spam pages to make some more money, do some website defacements. It's all really stupid shit. So one of their command and control servers uses more than 60 surrogate servers as part of its infrastructure. So essentially they compromise other boxes and then proxy the traffic through them. Fairly easy to do, even with the stuff that's automatically installed on a Linux box. You can find multiple ways to do that. Even like SSH, just do an SSH tunnel. It doesn't matter. There are a lot of ways to do it. Cashmere Black expands the scanning for sites using outdated software and exploits to hack other servers. So it spreads like a worm. It'll pop a box, and then that box will pop other boxes, because that's what you want with botnet, is for it to grow and you to get more and more bots. The botnet was the work of a hacker named Exect Leet. I don't know. Exect Leet. Who cares? They're part of an Indonesian hacker crew. They call themselves Phantom Ghost. That's like they named themselves with a shitty apt name rather than wait for somebody else to do it. Yep. Next, LinkedIn vulnerability. LinkedIn, right? Instagram, and a couple other sites are vulnerable to a preview link RCE security woes. Now, they say RCE, right? And that usually raised a few eyebrows, because it's kind of hard to do that from just like going to a website and hovering over a link and seeing a preview box. And you're right to think that, because even in the article, they're like, oh, well, it's not really that easy to get RCE. But what you can do is you can de-anonymize somebody on something like, I don't know, some popular onion-based networking protocol. Like, you can de-anonymize them when they hover over your link by calling back to yourself over the ClearNet. Or you can do other stuff. You can do some links where the preview, the app will go and download what's in the link, right? So like I go to my show notes here and I hover over this, right? And there's a preview link. I didn't put this here, but it's here, right? And I can even go here and replace the URL with the title like that, but I don't want to do that. There's that kind of shit, right? So it's embedded on a lot of different sites. And when it goes to generate the preview, you can screw with stuff, because it goes to do a pull, and essentially it's like a pull, a get, or So some security researchers pointed out shortly after. whatever. That's useless information. I don't care about that. It's talking about Stuxnet. We're not even there yet. So how the hell? I am so confused. Where am I? What happened here? Did I lose my link? I think I screwed up. Anyway.
It's under H.
Yeah, I somehow clicked on the wrong article and got very, very confused for a second. But essentially, the app, right? It's receiving the message. It shows the preview from the sender without having to open the link. So you just hover over it, right? And when that happens, there's a server somewhere that's pulling down that preview and then pushing it to you. Signal does it too, right? Viber, WhatsApp, they all practice this where you don't have to actually click the link. You can hover over it and see what it is. And that actually happens like on a remote server. In the case of Viber, which is one of those chat apps, the Viber servers pull down the link info, not your local box. So when the receiver generates the preview, it means that the app will open any links that are sent to it automatically, and there's no user interaction required. And this is bad because that process can leak location data. Essentially, like the pixel trick with an email that the Black Hat SEO people use, where you pop a pixel in an email that's like just a single white pixel as an image, and then you send somebody that email, and it goes to reach out to your server to get that pixel when they enable images, and now you know what their IP address is when they open the email. Like that, that's how it works. Same methodology. Except now we're de-anonymizing the server that's doing the reaching for the image. So say you're sending a private Dropbox link to someone and you don't want anybody else to see it. Are the servers that are downloading, are these servers that are generating that link, right? Are they downloading all those files, or do they just show a small amount of preview? If they're downloading the files, do the servers keep a copy and for how long? With services like Pastebin, you can do a burn after reading thing now. So you can send somebody a message, and once it's been read once, the message is burnt. What happens if you send somebody a message and then the server generates a preview link for that message and reads it, and then you go to read it and now it's gone, right? You can't read it. It's like that. Anyway. It talks about how much of each file different services actually download over here. Hangouts will grab like 20 megs of the file. Line will grab 20 megs. LinkedIn group grabs 50 megs. That's a lot. It's the same as Slack. So the issue is with Line, which is one of those apps. So because Line claims they have end-to-end encryption and only the sender and receiver can read the messages. When the Line app opens an encrypted message and finds a link, it sends that link to a Line server to generate a preview. This defeats the purpose of end-to-end encryption, since Line servers know all about the links they are being sent through the app, who's sharing what. Basically, if you are building end-to-end encrypted app, you shouldn't be putting in link generation, because that essentially any file you send to somebody, now they know about it, and God knows what they're going to do with it, right? Facebook Messenger and Instagram do it. It's now the RCE stuff comes into play, where this researcher posted a proof of concept on how hackers can run any JavaScript code on an Instagram server and LinkedIn messages. The server were also vulnerable to running JavaScript code, which allowed them to pass the 50 megabyte download limit test, download limit in a test. So you can't trust code that's found in the random links that's shared in chats. We did find, however, at least two major apps did this. That's Instagram and LinkedIn. We tested this by sending a link to a website on our server, which contained JavaScript code that simply made a callback to our server. We were then able to confirm that we had at least 20 seconds of execution time on the server. It may not sound like much, and our code really didn't do anything bad, but hackers can be creative. If you got 20 seconds to execute a command on a server, what can you do with that? Well, you can script out a whole bunch of shit and send it at once. You can do a web shell. You get a shell and then have that shell open another shell in another process. A lot of shit you can do. So LinkedIn was notified about it. They're like, To help our members stay safe, we use a sandbox to evaluate security risks. These further protection of our users, yada, yada, yada. They don't take it seriously. So the only preview issue is just one concern. A lot of collaboration apps have become intrinsic to the work from home. And I mean, say you don't want to pay for Teams or even a pay Slack channel. What do? Well, you need to talk to your coworkers to do stuff, and email's kind of slow. They're just going to throw up like a random Slack channel that's free, or any chat app, and do you really want your employees sending like Facebook messages to one another to get work done? And, all the security stuff that goes with sharing files on third-party platforms that you have no control or insight over, all of that good shit. Yep, that's that article. Anybody want to talk about some LinkedIn vulnerability preview link RCE security woes? No? Nothing to add? Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Apple, once again, is notarizing malicious apps. This time, they're apps that are pretending to be Flash installers. This happened 6 weeks ago. It's happened again. So there's a process Mac apps go through. The developers are going to submit their apps to Apple. And then Apple does a bunch of automated security scans to make sure that the app is not malware. And then they get approved and put in the App Store and people can download them. Well, once they're whitelisted, these apps can be opened on any Mac that is connected to the internet. And it won't get any kind of prompt. It'll be like, this is, like on Windows, you double click an executable and then you get the UAC prompt. It's like, are you sure you want to run this? It's downloaded from the internet. And you click OK. This is the Mac equivalent of that. It's called Gatekeeper. And you go to run an app. Normally you get a little, this is from an untrusted source. It's from the internet. Are you sure? And then you click yes. And then it makes you do it again, like 2 more times. And then it'll finally run it. When it's on the whitelist, it doesn't do that at all. It just runs it. So app notarization has been mandatory for all apps on their new OS releases. But on the older ones, you could kind of bypass it. So now we got some notarized malware. They got their code signed. They got it inspected. There was nothing malicious found in their code. And now a whole bunch of people are downloading it and running it. The problem being that it's actually malicious. And they just didn't detect it in these scanning of the signed apps. All right, Schlayer, our old friend, right? That Schlayer is on pretty much every other Mac I examine forensically. It's almost always there. Not almost always, but 1 out of 2 I see it. It's pretty prevalent. And also Bundle Core is another one. It's on a lot of Macs. So you also got OS X Mac offers. So they revoked the developer certificate while the malware was under investigation. It's unclear how Apple became aware of it. Perhaps they got a report from another researcher. But for a while, that signed code was available for anybody in the Mac ecosystem to execute and run. And that fake Adobe player download installed malware. So that's great. It would be like if you were on an Android phone, you went to the Play Store and you downloaded an app and that app had malware in it, which happens too. It also happens. All right, this one's pretty funny. So Macs, like we were just talking about, they sign the code, right? And you want to run it, you got to pass the checks. And this HP printer driver, for whatever reason, they had their signed code. How does it work? They essentially had it revoked. Like Apple was like, this used to be good, but now we think something's sketch with it. So if you go to run this, we're not going to let you, right? So a whole bunch of people have these HP printers attached to their Macs, and now they can't print anything. And if they try and run the installation program for their HP printer, it tells them that this is malware. Yep. So they unintentionally revoke credentials on older Mac drivers, right? This caused a disruption for customers who were working with Apple. They're trying to restore the drivers. And in the meantime, they recommend you uninstall the driver and just use the native Apple AirPrint driver to print stuff. And that is also probably going to be missing a lot of the features that are in the other driver. But at least maybe you can print in the meantime. And it goes through how you uninstall your HP printer driver and install the crap one. Good job, Apple.
Yeah, that can be a problem. I mean, I don't use HPs, but we set up like user codes, or some sort of authentication for big MFPs, and if Apple were to pull that junk, you just basically shut it down.
Yeah, it caused all sorts of problems. Like if they say you can't run this code on your system, this code's signing cert has been rejected. You cannot execute this code on your box unless you go through extreme measures to do so. And most people are not going to do that. So it's just the way Apple controls their ecosystem.
Yeah, I've going through their tech support. I mean, those guys, you got to ask them about a dozen times before they get things done, especially with Apple IDs and stuff like that. I mean, it's a mess.
And also, if you go to their store, their answer to everything is buy a new one. You want to fix the old one? Okay, it will cost twice as much as a new one. Just buy a new one.
Well,
I've bought
new gear. It's the new gear that is sometimes gives me some fits.
So my father-in-law, he had an old iMac G4. Thing was ancient, right? And it stopped kind of working. He wanted to bring it to the Apple store to get it fixed. I told him that's a really bad idea. He's like, well, I think they can fix it. And I'm like, okay, I'm coming with you because I wanted to see this. As he lugs this Apple G4 in there and he puts it down, the guy behind the counter was like, what is this? And he's like, my computer's not working. I just stand in the corner laughing. I'm like, oh my God, this is great.
I gave away all of my old Mac equipment. It'd be funny if I could walk in with a Mac Classic and see what they'd think of it.
Yeah.
Go black and white.
I managed to actually get all his data back by mounting the hard drive under Windows, right, using an HFS or whatever the hell it was, file driver that I found online. And then I just pulled all his crap from it and put it on a thumb drive for him, and he put it on his new one. It was missing file extensions for a lot of stuff, which was annoying, but it worked and the data was there. Anyway, Microsoft is literally releasing an update now, and the only purpose of this update is to remove Adobe Flash from people's PCs. I like it.
It was fun while it lasted. The first few videos on my website, it will no longer work, but
Right. So it's called KB4577586. It is not yet included in the Windows update, but it is available for download direct. So you can, if you're running like a network, you can pull this down and then you can use like PSExec to push the MSI file to all your computers. That's a really lame way to do it, but you can do it that way. So they announced this optional update. It is released in the fall to uninstall Flash Player, and it also prevents it from being installed again. So once it's uninstalled, you can't reinstall it. The user is screwed if he tries to reinstall it. Just like Apple prevents you from installing your printer driver, Microsoft is going to prevent you from installing Adobe Flash. Like, I'm in favor of it. Flash is crap.
Yeah, but
security vulnerabilities in this product, it is ridiculous.
Yeah, you're right, but I disagree with the fact that they're preventing you from reinstalling it. That seems like a really bad idea. I mean, yeah, you're a dumbass if you. I'm gonna leave it installed because there's a few things that I use that are local that are Flash based because they're fun little things I work with. But that's my choice, my risk, my responsibility. But forcing people to leave it off is stupid. As I just think it just sets a dangerous precedent that you're allowing the operating system manufacturer to deign what you can and can't do with it.
That brings us pretty well to our next article where Microsoft is saying no more Internet Explorer for you.
Yeah.
You will use Edge, and you will not use the old version of Edge. You will use our Chromium-based Edge. And you have no choice if you want to run the latest build of the H2, whatever the hell it is, Windows 10 build, the H something. That version, you just can't use Internet Explorer on it anymore. Like, even if you found the executable on another build and copied it over and ran it, it would not work.
I don't think I've had a lot of my capture boxes turned on even since either early March or late February. I normally update them while I'm working on them at a con, like the night before.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't been at a con for a while, so
that's a good point. You should update your shit, man. You should look into
that's getting out like 6 different computers and booting them all up and then applying all the updates. And
so, like,
I don't have that much table space. All the horizontal spaces in my house are covered with shit.
Well, speaking of Flash and Internet Explorer and stuff like that, if you're working with really old gear, okay, like older versions of VMware, you want interface with a client, that's Flash. Older iDRACs, got to use Flash.
Some of them you also have to use Internet Explorer.
That's true.
So you must use IE 9 or below, otherwise you are not getting this site to load properly. And we also have some random ActiveX control you need to download if you want to use this.
Yep. I mean, there should be a way to just throw it in a little VM or a container and run that junk.
That would be a good solution. They should look into that, considering how much they're pushing for containers and virtualization now. Anyway, so Microsoft's cutting off your access to be able to use Internet Explorer and old Edge. Their new version is based on Chromium. It's actually pretty good, according to a lot of people. Same engine that powers Google Chrome. Although if you're going to go through that, why not just use Google Chrome? They're doing a new DLL file injected into Edge, which is a plugin that can render some of the old IE stuff, but it's not 100%. So essentially, it's like a compatibility mode for websites. But like I said, it's not 100%. That's great.
Well, the new Edge is pretty good. It's just, I mean, they still shove MSN on us. I mean, at least it's not, it's more minimalist than, that stupid old Edge or Internet Explorer. I mean,
I don't know. Chrome, in my experience, eats a lot more RAM than Firefox or Internet Explorer. And if you're building your new Edge on Chrome, you better do something about that. Otherwise, you're going to have a bunch of computers that have like 4 gigs of RAM that just can't surf the internet at all.
Yeah.
Next, we've got Zoom's end-to-end encryption. So Zoom has been talking. Look, Zoom has said that they have end-to-end encryption for a while. But it wasn't true end-to-end encryption because of the need for them to have people do like the phone call into the meeting, and that like secured it less. And they were using their own end-to-end encryption that they rolled themselves, and people were not happy with that, right? And now they are doing full end-to-end encryption, and for a while they were saying it will only be for paid people. You can have end-to-end, and everybody else. Just let the NSA sniff your shit. But now they're saying we're going to give it to everybody for free. So everybody in the meeting can be on an end-to-end encrypted call. It is supported on all their major platforms, the Mac, the PC, iOS, and Android. And also Zoom Rooms, but not yet the web client or the third-party clients that use the software development kit for Zoom. So if somebody joins your meeting with that, I guess the meeting security is going to be downgraded to the lowest version, right? Otherwise, that person can't talk. They don't mention that in the article, but I'm just thinking about that from a technical standpoint. So they're asking for feedback for the next 30 days on this feature. And yeah, that's pretty much the whole thing. I like end-to-end encryption. I'm a privacy guy, even though I constantly leak my own data everywhere like a child. But privacy is important for a lot of people, for a lot of reasons. And end-to-end encryption is important. And I don't think the government should be trying to regulate what encryption you have to use, or having to tell you, like, you need to use less secure encryption so that we can man in the middle it. I think if two people want to talk and have a private conversation, just like they can in the privacy of their own home, they should be able to over the internet without anybody listening in, except Google Home. Next, we got it. Speaking of privacy, this is a good one here. So, this was Finland, I believe. We have a therapy place, right? The place does like psychotherapy. Their patients' data, including like the records of their sessions and what was talked about in them, was leaked, and it's being blackmailed back to them for cash. And I actually was looking into this morning, and I even came across the original article on a 4chan-like image board that's on Tor, where the hacker talks about how he breached this company, and he offers the data for sale. And he also, at one point, he goes, people are like, hey, can you just remove my data from the breach? And he's like, yeah, for half a Bitcoin, I'll take your shit out of the breach, and then I'll just share the breach with everyone minus your stuff, which is pretty new to me. I didn't know that was a thing before, but apparently it is. He pushed out at least 300 records. They're saying, from what I understand, he popped up an 8 gig file, and then somebody downloaded about a gig of it, and then the upload got cut off. And that person, since it was a tar file, was able to extract it, and they were able to see a lot of data in that, but they did not then reshare that tar file. And the file host that was originally hosting this is gone. So they refused to pay, right? Then they increased the demand, and they increased it again and again. And then they started publishing sessions from teenagers. Also, this data can be used for identity theft. There's all sorts of good chunks of stuff in there. And so people are saying, I don't feel like paying will guarantee that my data will remain safe, but a lot of people are paying anyway. And the person who did this, let me see if I can find the link that I had this morning. That's not where I want this. Oh, great. Leak all the data. Just 1 second. I will have it in a sec. Right. Where are you? Okay. There it is. Oh, that's not. Well, you know where I got it from now. This is. All right. Just 1 sec. Poor installed. Oh my god, I'm lame. Let's do it from a VM. Give me 1 sec, guys. I apologize for the delay. Let's talk about something while I spin up this VM real quick. Let's talk about how awesome Adrian is and how much everyone should appreciate him for all the work he did recording all those talks at all those cons.
Which hopefully I'll get to do again, and hopefully people will start ignoring whiners on the internet.
Whiners are very loud, and squeaky wheel always.
Yeah, unfortunately, some people are very weak-willed. Here's the problem with the super inclusion people. You let too many of them around, they'll exclude anybody who has a separate opinion.
Right, but then they talk about how they're inclusive.
And then you'll have nothing but talks about emotional intelligence and other bullshit at a conference.
Oh no.
Soft skills have the points, but some people just don't actually have the skill to teach soft skills. And a technical conference that's all that shit, that gets old after a while.
Yes. I was at a B-sides that only had like 2 actual technical talks, and the rest were kind of bullshit talks. Like, not gonna lie, they were pretty lame. It happens. A lot of people, they want to push their own agendas, and they don't really want or care about what's going on with the tech community.
Oh, I
They
remember a few episodes ago,
talk about their own shit.
something I said at the beginning. He said, "You got off to a good start with all the gatekeeping." So I basically just banned him from my channel.
Wow.
Actually, I think he can still view stuff. He can't comment. I'm tired of that kind of bullshit.
Oh, I don't blame you. It's
Stop whining. Just do some good work, and you will be accepted.
okay. So right now, you guys see a giant window that's got nothing in it. So let me fix that. Let me just unshare that. Stop sharing. Reshare. Share screen. App window. Share that. All right. Can you guys see my my VM here? You might want to share the screen.
Yep. Okay.
All right. So
Tori.
right. So this is like an image board on Tor. It's kind of like 4chan, but for Tor. And starts out with this dude.
I'd be scared to go on it. You're not going to show anything really weird, are you?
There's nothing really weird on here.
Okay.
All right. So this guy talks about how he hacked the psychotherapy clinic. He gives you the name, right? I have tens of thousands of patient records and extremely sensitive data and social security numbers. Apparently they have social security number in that country as well. He wants 40 Bitcoins from the company. Like the article said, he increased that a few times after when they refused to pay. And the CEO stopped responding to emails. So we're going to be leaking 100 patient records a day, and you can view all the data here. And then he gives you this link, and this link no longer works because the host that it was on, he claims, got hacked by somebody else. Anyway, I think he just took it down because he didn't want shit. But if you go through all these posts here, he calls himself Ransom Man. Right? And you just go through all the things he posts. Some of them are in another language, Finnish, but they did not reply, right? There was some good stuff in here when I looked earlier. It's probably updated since then. So another link that, yep. So people are like, hey, remove my record, right? And I'll give you half a Bitcoin. And he does. And then this dude's like, this is all fake. This is bullshit. Fake news. Still haven't heard back from the company. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, nothing really all that interesting anymore. If you get towards the bottom, some of the replies, it looks like somebody took over this dude's account, and it's just pretty funny considering he was, trying to sell data he hacked, and then somebody took over his account, but he might have just been doing it himself for the lulz, because that's the kind of people we're dealing with here. Yeah. So they also, in here, they do leak some psychotherapy notes of people. Obviously, we can't read them because we don't speak Finnish, but the fact that they are leaked is kind of a big deal. It's a huge nightmare for not just the people who had their data put on the internet, but imagine you go to a therapist and all your notes just end up on the internet because of some data breach. That would suck. And here he goes, I got my money, so the link stays down and will never be available again. All the data has been destroyed and there are no backups. Have a nice weekend and goodbye. like then somebody goes here, oh, that wasn't me, that wasn't my account, and it's the same name posting and a whole bunch of drama. And I don't know, it's typical crap you see there, right? And take that share screen down and then put this one back up. Yeah. All right. Share screen, app window, that one, share. All right. So yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's the whole article, really. It's pretty much the dude hacked them, and he leaked a few people's information from their session notes, and other people who were able to pull down that like first terabyte of data before they got cut off did post some other notes showing that the data was good. Anyway, it's a big story for a lot of people. Next, so we're going to be talking about remote workers ignoring the trainings that we forced them to go through about how you shouldn't open suspicious emails. So because of COVID, a lot more people are working remote than ever before. And a lot of the time, these remote setups were not necessarily vetted properly first. And they just kind of threw them together to get something working. And you got a lot of people who refuse to even take basic security trainings seriously. And that results in them clicking on links that they shouldn't be clicking on in emails and downloading attachments and running executable code on their computers through like Word macros and infecting everything. Because although 96% of the people who responded in this study said they were aware of the repercussions of clicking through a malicious phishing link, about 45% of them open emails that they still consider to be suspicious. It's like, this email looks sketch, let me open it. 64% claimed to have received special security training that equips them to work better from home, yet half of them admitted to not reporting any of these kind of emails to their IT team. This really shouldn't be a surprise to anybody who works in tech that users are going to click stupid shit and get machines infected. That's why you don't give users admin unless you absolutely have to. Worst case scenario, they're in a user profile, you kill the profile, unless they know how to elevate privileges, which sometimes they do. Yep. Refuse all that.
Who wants to hear something truly, truly scary?
I do.
We have a report of a massive outage, network outage, in Vermont and New York State. 8 hospitals completely dead, shit in the water. Networks out, users can't log in, everyone's locked out. All surgeries have been canceled, and they've reverted to paper tracking for all their patients.
Yeah, this is news. This is only 4 hours ago. So this is the St. Lawrence Health System and Sky Lakes Medical Center.
Yeah, University of Vermont Health Network, UVNHN. That's the network.
Yep, 3 networks in this. 3 hospitals in this network were victimized by ransomware. Meanwhile, Oregon Sky Lakes Medical Center was also victimized this week. New York Lawrence says some computers in 3 hospitals were attacked by ransomware. The IT department disconnected all systems and shut down the entire network to prevent further propagation. Taking down an entire hospital network, that is ballsy, because you don't want to take that down.
Well, let me tell you, I've got an inside hook with some of the IT people working on this. It's 8 hospitals completely in the shitter.
Wow.
And as of 11 o'clock this morning.
It looks like it's the Ryuk variant that they got hit with, and the FBI is on it as well as Homeland Security. They claim that they implement extensive IS controls, measures, and procedures, and are working diligently with their IT security partner to restore IT operations as quickly as possible. That is essentially the boilerplate stuff that their lawyers have to say. Look, our computer systems have been compromised. As of right now, we have no evidence that PII has been compromised. The hospital said in a Facebook post, which noted the emergency and urgent care are still available, and scheduled procedures would occur when possible. Communications with the medical center will be a little complicated. The entire Skylakes team is working to counter this attack. Ransomware is on the rise. Criminals taking over. Yada yada yada. Yeah, man, that's a good find. I didn't have that in the show notes. It only happened 4 hours ago, though.
Yeah, I just got a phone call from an IT buddy of mine.
Yeah, we're gonna put that right in the show notes after the remote workers refusing to open suspicious emails, so that it will be there for anybody. Control Shift Z, Control Shift V. There you bolded. Just 1 sec. I do some formatting crap here. Bold. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of terrifying when you think about hospitals succumbing to ransomware. It's like there was a thing where somebody actually died because of it a few weeks ago. The dude was in an ambulance. It was a woman, actually. She was in an ambulance, and the ambulance needed to be diverted to a different hospital because the hospital got shut down because of ransomware, and she died in the ambulance on the way to the other hospital. And she would have been able to be saved if she had been in an ER. At least they probably would have been able to be saved.
The scary thing about this right now is that, I mean, it's bad, it's scary, it's stupid, but they said they're going back to paper tracking for patients right now, and they've canceled all surgeries. That's 8 hospitals in a metropolitan area, all working on crash facts.
Wow.
Paper crash facts. I guarantee you, I promise you on my left testicle, something is going to get fucked up, if not already.
Hey, if you're a paper salesman, that's a good place to hit right now.
Let me give you an idea. I used to work for this company called Service Merchandise, and they had this thing where if the computer network ever went down, you had to do everything on paper by hand. And so many orders got fucked up within the first 10 minutes, and it was like a rolling stone. After about 2 hours, it was just pandemonium. Imagine what that's happening in a hospital. I mean, we're talking about not this is like, prescriptions, medication, medical orders, all having to fall back to paper.
Wow. It's terrifying. I mean, it's not a typical situation you think is going to happen when you're in a hospital, but I mean,
and the thing that really spooks the shit out of me is that this hit a central network of 8 hospitals that all were interdependent on each other as a single point of failure.
And there were a bunch of threat actors earlier this year who agreed not to go after hospitals and then did it anyway. It sucks. It's really low. It's like, look, there are things you go after as a hacker if you have absolutely no ethics whatsoever, and going after hospitals is definitely one of those things.
You got to figure somebody's got to plan a scorched earth kind of thing for this.
Yeah, this is not like your typical, oh, look, I found a vulnerability in a hospital. Let me.
No, I'm talking about retaliation.
Oh, retaliation. Yeah.
This is the basis of every 80s revenge movie.
If people die because of this, they're going to go for a murder charge, I bet.
If they make it that far.
Yeah. Anyway, Enel Group is another place that got ransomwared. They're not a hospital, but they are the largest player in the European energy sector, and they have more than 61 million customers in 40 countries. They're on the Fortune 500, and they make about $90 billion a year. And they got hit with ransomware, the Snake ransomware, otherwise known as Ekans. And typical ransom note, right? This one also... Their personal code seems to be written in another language. or maybe it's just blacked out. It's definitely just scribbled out. That makes more sense. So they also stole a bunch of data and exfiltrated it as well. And they are essentially saying that if they get their money, they won't leak the data. But if they don't get their money, they're going to auction off the data. And it's a lot of data. They're releasing screenshots of what they've got through like a Windows Explorer window. And they got about 5 terabytes of stuff, which I don't know. I don't know who their competitors are, but I bet they'd probably pay for it. Yeah. Ransomware, man. It's the new thing.
Is it new?
No.
Not that new.
It keeps evolving. That's the thing. It's like it used to be they go after a single computer, right? And that computer would get infected and the person would have to like either wipe it or call them up and pay, not call them up, go to the site on like dark web and pay them some Bitcoin and they get in a decryptor, they get their shit back and they'd be happy. Now they go after like one machine first, and then from that machine they pivot to everything else in the network, and then they encrypt everything at once, and then they on top of that grab a copy of your data, exfiltrate that, and if you don't pay them, they sell your data. It's like they're making money regardless. If you don't pay, fine, we'll sell it to somebody else. You know, and your shit will still be all encrypted. It's fucked up. And now you've got places that don't even encrypt your stuff, right? They'll get in there, they'll exfiltrate your data, and then they'll just tell you, if you don't pay for this, we're going to release it. They don't even bother encrypting your shit. They just skip that step. Speaking of ransomware stuff, Emotet, right? They're like a malware as a service type thing. And their operators, because you buy access to the software and then you can go and infect people and you have your own C2 server and everything's set up. Super easy, don't need to be technical. But the caveat here is a lot of people will use this and then push something else like Ryuk or what are the other ones? I don't know. Yeah. So it's like a malicious Word doc. You click it, you get infected, you got Emotet, and then you're going to get TrickBot or QBot or any one of those because essentially you've got a Trojan on your computer now and they can control it. And they might be like, hey, you know, this guy sucks. He doesn't have anything worth taking. And they might just leave the Trojan there and see if anything interesting pops up. Or they could be like, oh, this is a high value target in a corporate network. I'm going to go sell access to this for like $2,000 to some other hacker who will then take over this shell and use it to put Ryuk ransomware on the network. Or they themselves do it. You know, depends on the complexity of the hacker. Not even a hacker. I'd call them crackers, or they even just script kiddies. But that kind of makes script kiddies look bad. You know, they're just not sophisticated attackers, is what I'm getting at. They are not IT people. They are regular criminals who just happen to be using technology. That's my take. Oh, what I want to talk about that was the Microsoft lore, right? So this article is not the one I want. There's a bleeping computer article that's better. Here it is. All right, so this is what it looks like, right? And if you are, oh man, my screen's not being shared.
Oh, hold on.
Adrian,
I just came back down from taking a shit.
Excellent. This is what it looks like, right? And if you're a typical user, you're kind of an idiot. You open a Word document, and this is what you see, right? You go, oh shit, there must be a new version of Word I need to view this document. So let me go and get the new version. It tells me right here, all I have to do is click Enable Editing and then Enable Content. So let me click it. And I go up here and they click this box. And then I get another box. They click OK again. And now the code is running on the computer. And what it does is it pulls down an executable file from the command and control server. And it stores it in app data, right? And it's just a regular exe file. and it runs it in the context of the user that ran the Word document. And it spreads really, really quickly. It gets on your box, and then it looks for other boxes. It's ugly shit. And it's going to try and steal your passwords, your bank information, anything else it can find. It was originally a bank piece of malware, like designed to screw with just banks, but they have since branched out, and they are malware as a service. Anybody can buy it and use it for whatever they want. So don't open stupid shit. And if you do open it, don't then enable macros. Yeah, that's the thing. Train users that, I opened a stupid document. Let me not click that and make it worse. Comes back to user education, which a lot of companies don't spend enough time on. And even if they did, like that other article said, most people just ignore it. GitHub boots a popular YouTube download tool after an RIAA claim. So YouTube download is a program you can use to pull down YouTube videos, right? It makes life a lot easier if you are trying to just maybe pull down a song you like, or maybe a bunch of videos from your favorite YouTuber. I'm going to go on Irongeek's site, and I'm going to pull down all the YouTube copies of his videos, use YouTube download, right? But the RIAA was not happy that people were using this tool to pull down music videos. And they own the copyright on all the music videos because they're the record company. So what they do, they were like, hey, let's say that this is a workaround for a streaming video, and claim that nobody could possibly use it for helping themselves less than lawfully to music tracks, which they must be doing. So since it's designed for an illegal purpose, we can then have them take it down. And they got a court order, and they got it taken down. And then a whole bunch of people went on GitHub and uploaded their own repos of YouTube download as an FU, because that's what people do. The EFF, of course, got involved. They're not doing shit, but that's what they do. Yep. Screw freedom of speech. We're just going to take down some tool that can do stuff because we don't like one of the things it can do. Yep. Brett Kavanaugh foreshadows how Supreme Court could disrupt the vote counting. This is in the wrong fucking section. How did this get over here? I'm going to move you to where you belong, which is the politics section. You need to go there. You go at the bottom, too, because you know what? You cut the line, mister. So, next. Oregon hospital knocked offline by ransomware. This goes back to the other article that we just read about the New York hospital. This happened earlier. This was 10 hours ago. The other one was 4 hours ago. So there are 4 details, 4 key takeaways here, and it's pretty to the point. The hospital reported computer systems are down due to the attack, and communication is complicated during downtime. The hospital is moving forward with scheduled procedures, although those requiring imaging services are delayed. The hospital is still filling prescriptions at the pharmacies during the downtime, but emergency room and urgent care services are still open at this time. And they do not believe any PII was compromised. Those are the key takeaways for that one.
Yay.
What are the odds it's the same threat actor who took down the New York hospital? Hospitals, 8 of them. We don't have enough info yet. All right. For those of you who spent many, many hours working very, very hard and got your OSCP, there's good news. There is another new cert out there, which is a little harder. And if you want to try harder, you can get it. This is called the pen testing course is called the Pen 300, right? But the cert is called OSEP, Offensive Security Experienced Penetration Tester. So you're not just a regular penetration tester. You are an experienced penetration tester. You can penetrate all the things, and you don't even need to drink all the booze. The course itself is called Evasion Techniques and Breaching Defenses. It doesn't only teach pen testing, but also the methodology to perform the tests. You will earn your OSCP cert if you pass the test after doing the course. It is designed to be taken after passing the OSCP and before the OSCE, and also before the OSCE 3. Lot of different courses. This course is one of the replacements for the one that used to be called Cracking the Perimeter. They don't offer that course anymore. But once you earn your OSCP, you can also take your AWAE course or your EXP 301 Exploit Development course. So you got a lot of different ways you can go to get lots of content in that little. So you get like a 700-page PDF for this course. And of course, you're going to get the video files in that zip. And when you extract it, it's going to be a HTML file in a media folder. And you run the HTML file and you get a whole bunch of videos that you can go through on hacking all the things. And yeah, good stuff, man. You can go get your next cert if you get an OSCP, and then your employer's like, "What's an OSCP?" Well, I have an OSCP. Well, that's good. That's the one we want. And you're like, then why did I get this other one? Because I want to learn. I want to continue learning. It's a lifelong process. That's why.
Or you can find a job where you can just surf, and wait till you retire.
Yeah, you could do that. So Singapore had a data breach that was so bad, the nation decided, you know what? We really got to fix some cyber shit. This is just too bad. We're a global business hub, right? And we can't have this cyber shit happening. Now what? Now you know what? Mandatory cyber standards and a focus on the basics for everybody. In 2018, Singapore suffered one of the worst data breaches ever when inadequate cybersecurity at Sling Health saw a quarter of the population's entire medical records stolen. So if this were the U.S., that would be a lot of people also. But it's not the U.S. It's 1 in every 4 people got their shit taken. So they didn't even have basic security policies in place. Now they're working on improving it. They have a WISE Cybersecurity Center of Excellence, and they're implementing mandatory standards even just for home routers. Nobody picking up a cheap router and leaving it on default settings. No more Linksys SSIDs everywhere. Yeah. The new standards, why we won't just go back to normal. We'll talk about how this is not the same article, is it? What the hell? Why would you do that? Anyway, the end of the article is over here, talking when I talked about the routers. And then for some reason, they put a somewhat related article below it. But the title up here is for the first one. I don't know. We're just going to ignore that second article. Poor web development shit right there, man. But don't you worry. Just because we're done with InfoSec news doesn't mean we're done with all the news. Because we've still got politics, non-InfoSec news, cancel culture, and last but not least, general IT news and cool technology to go. And don't forget other shit at the bottom. So, next, millions of government GOP dollars have flowed to Trump's properties during his presidency. Why is the link not doing the thing that links do? I click the button and nothing happens. Okay. Let's see if this article will actually load. You know what? This loads on mobile, so it pisses me off it doesn't load on here.
It does it appears to in Firefox in mine.
Okay.
Copy and paste?
Yep. Just one sec. Maybe I
There's
just
something
grabbed
like ballrooms, candles, and all the other stuff. What is that?
other stuff. God damn it. Stupid freaking. I wonder if I change my user agent if that'll work. Let's say I'm an Android phone. Can I read it then? Now I'm at the freaking main page. That's not where I want to be. Oh, I hate you, Washington Post. I was not going to put articles from you in my stuff anymore.
Yeah, it's behind a paywall, and it's like, oh, you can't look at it.
I know, which is annoying because I read it earlier and it wasn't behind a paywall then. So either they put it behind a paywall in the last few hours, or the fact that I read it on an Android device means that they let me read it. But when I read it on a computer, they screw me. Either way, screw them and screw this article. Nobody cares.
I don't care.
Nobody cares. We're going to move to the next article. KU study concludes county mask mandates in Kansas have stalled major rise in COVID-19. This article was sent to me by my significant other, Kim, and I thought it was a good article to cover here. And if I could just click this stupid freaking box.
Oh, here's another paywall.
This isn't a paywall. This is the fact that I changed my user agent to that, and now it's being a dick. All right. That maybe it is a paywall. I don't know. Anyway, here it is. So researchers at the University of Kansas report counties with mask mandates thwarted significant escalation in transmission of COVID-19, and counties operating without a mask mandate suffered a steadily increased infection rate. So essentially, what happened here in Kansas was statewide, they said everybody has to wear masks. And then locally, some county governments were like, screw that. Nobody needs to wear a mask. Okay. And some places you got towns where people are wearing masks, and other places you got towns where people are not wearing masks, which means this is a great place to do a study on the efficacy of masks.
I want to control for various, what all things did they control for? Like what the people go out and shop and how they do it and what restaurants they go to? Or see, I still have my doubts because of how I see people wearing masks. Like I don't see them take it off properly. I see them touch the mask. I see them have it down by below their nose.
So the mask is not to protect you; it's to protect people. So if you got it and you're wearing a mask, you're less likely to transmit it to somebody else.
But you are still going to have a problem if you keep down below your nose, which is not as huge a problem.
Right. I guess a lot of people use masks wrong, right? And a lot of people
my mouth though when I sneeze or cough.
Yeah.
And to my knowledge, it doesn't actually cause sneezing; it causes a dry cough. Correct?
When I had it, I had sneezing, I had phlegm, I had coughing fits, but I had it pretty bad. I had it for 5 weeks, and I caught it, and I was wearing N95 masks. I mean, I had them. So, that's masks help, but if you're going to catch it, if you're going to catch it, but you're not going to spread it so easily, because what the mask does is blocks it so that if you cough or sneeze, it limits the spread of the germs to about 1.5 feet instead of 6 feet or 27 feet. If you sneeze, it'll go about 27 feet.
So the conclusion of the study and the article that was published in the University of Washington Journal of Nature Medicine, right? It says that if everybody would adhere to the mask wearing throughout the entire United States, we would save 130,000 lives by the end of February. That's the conclusion of the data from the study. Essentially, They go through essentially they extrapolate that from the data they got from comparing different counties. some who had mask mandates and some who did not, and how many people in those counties got infected. So yeah,
Well, you know, a lot of these cloth masks are just not worth a squat, period. Okay. I mean, all it does is prevent it from projecting beyond 1.5 feet. And that's it.
I agree with you, but the thing is that 1.5 feet could mean the difference between me standing in line like
Right.
3 feet away from you and you getting me sick. So not you particular, just in general.
I already got it. I mean, I'm immune to it for quite a while.
That brings up another interesting article about herd immunity. So apparently, a British study is showing evidence, and they're warning people that the whole herd immunity thing might not necessarily apply to COVID-19. So they sent out home finger pricks to home finger prick tests to about 365,000 randomly selected people in England, right? For more than 26 decline in essentially there's more than a 26% decline in COVID-19 antibodies over just 3 months. So 3 months after you get it, you have 26% decline in antibodies. So if you were to take that to a year, assuming that it stayed the same way, after a year, you'd no longer be immune.
You know, that's not how you know, the immunology works. And there are two types of immunity to COVID. Antibodies is just one of them. That's your standard. You know, when you get a flu vaccine and everything else. But you also have T cell immunity, and your body does retain some memory of how to reproduce the antibodies. You may not have the antibodies, but you know, if infection comes your way, it will be able to produce more antibodies.
Right.
Now remember
So
that
antibodies are
COVID,
proteins your body naturally generates to fight infection. IgG are one type. The tests were not designed to detect other types of antibodies.
Right.
Other research teams have found that other types of antibodies may persist longer than this. The results confirm earlier studies that showed people who did not have symptoms of COVID-19 were likely to lose detectable antibodies sooner than those who had more severe infections. Younger people who had COVID-19 had a slower loss of antibodies compared to people over 75 who survived an infection. It's still not known if antibodies can provide an effective level of immunity to COVID-19 or how long people may be immune to reinfection. Some infections, like the measles, cause what's known as sterilizing immunity. People infected once have antibodies. They can be detected for many years after. With the coronavirus, however, scientists are no less. It's also unclear what contribution T cell immunity and the body's memory responses to threats like COVID-19 will play in providing protection if somebody is exposed again to the novel coronavirus. More research is needed. Yep.
well, basically, if you get a vaccine, you're going to be producing antibodies. That's what the vaccine produces, that type of immune response.
Correct.
Okay.
But like what they're saying is over the course of a year, it's 26% less of those antibodies.
Right. You lose the antibodies. Yeah. But if first of all, COVID-19 is novel. I mean, it's not deviating. There's not a bunch of branches like with influenza or, you know, other, you know, common cold viruses and everything else. So, I mean, we have the root branch for this, so they can, you know, keep going back to it. It's not going to deviate and mix and do the, you know, recombine like influenza does, not for quite a long while. And so, you know, a vaccine will work for quite a long time.
Right. Next article we've got, it talks more about the vaccine. So we'll move it up a little because it was down there. Put it over here. Okay. So Pfizer's late-stage trial is nearly complete for their coronavirus vaccine. They've got 42,000 volunteers, and the company announced when it released a third quarter earnings report that 36,000 of the volunteers has already received a second of the 2 doses of the vaccine. So it's a 2-phase vaccine. Nearly 36,000 of the volunteers have received the second dose. Pfizer has been working alongside German drug maker BioNTech in the experimental vaccine. It contains genetic material called RNA or mRNA, which scientists hope provokes their immune response to the virus. The trial has gone up to phase 3. They're expanding it to allow further diversity in the trial. They're including adolescents in this latest trial. Phase 3 is a critical last step to getting the vaccine cleared for distribution. Other U.S.-backed candidates in phase 3 are Moderna, AstraZeneca, and Johnson & Johnson. So it's kind of like a race to the finish at this point with who can do it first. Pfizer expects to apply for an emergency use authorization with the U.S. Drug Administration next month. Third quarter sales dropped 4.3%, hurt in part by a lower demand for some of its other drugs. They lost 12.13 billion this year in sales. Nobody cares. Well, somebody comes up with a freaking vaccine soon.
Well, the Pfizer vaccine is the one that seems to produce the most antibodies. I mean, that's what I read about it. I guess it was about 6 weeks ago. That was the one that was most promising. And so evidently it's like a shingles vaccine or a hepatitis vaccine. So you have to get one shot, and then a few months later you get another. I had the shingles vaccine. It made me sick. I have to get in 2 months. I got to get another one. Great.
Yeah. A lot of people are probably going to have reactions to this, and then the anti-vaxxers are going to go crazy, and we're going to see people protesting and people refusing to get it, and then there comes into the whole thing with can we mandate it or not, and that's going to be fucking hell when we actually get this vaccine, because there are going to be people who refuse to get it, and I'm sure it will lead to protests and rioting and all sorts of fun shit.
I mean, right now, since I have some immunity, being exposed to the virus just makes my immune system stronger. So that's, and so, I mean, but I still have to wear the stupid damn mask.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird that you still have to wear a mask after you've already had it and transmit it to somebody. But I understand the reasoning, because it's like you can't carry around a card that just says, hey, I can't get it. Otherwise, people would just fake that card, because people suck. And people already make up their own fake cards that say, like, I don't need to wear a mask, and that's fucking stupid. Okay, that's what I want to do. There. Just some formatting shit so Adrian doesn't go nuts. Excellent. Oh, there's another one. Put that one down there too. Let's call this section space shit. That's what I should do. A lot of articles relating to space this week. I don't know why. It's just what I came across. No. Fix it. All right.
Wait, where are we at now? 'Cause now I'm seeing things pop up again as far as weird changes.
I'm making some weird changes right now. Okay, that's better. All right. So next we are around somewhere. What the fuck? God damn it.
We did the Pfizer one, so that was D.
Yeah, I got lost. Give me a sec.
Trump campaign ads.
Thanks.
They're trying to bypass the Facebook censorship.
Right.
Well, as they say, it rules, but I don't care if they can bypass their rules. It's not like Facebook rules is the law.
I mean, basically, that Rule 230 needs to be. I mean, there needs to be a nice, massive lawsuit and revenue drain from both Facebook and Twitter, because they're very biased.
Now, as far as the New York Post article went, Twitter completely blocked you from posting it, if I understand. I don't know if Facebook did, though. Facebook's done something weird recently where you can't link to a tweet. Or at least I haven't been able to recently.
Yeah, I noticed that a few days ago. Also, Adrian, there were certain. I think that was around the time that Twitter was having an outage too, though.
But there's some way they bypassed the rules by having this ad play once before the election, and then if they want to, they can then run it after. I'm not quite sure I followed.
So what the article is saying is, if an ad gets at least one impression, it can run again. If nobody clicks on it, they don't let you run it again. So all it needs is one impression, and it's good to go. So the thing is, this particular ad that Trump put up and he ran implied that he had already won the election. And that is misinformation. And that is supposed to be against the company's rules. Like, you can't actively do political misinformation in an ad that you distribute to a whole bunch of people.
Even though we've seen a bunch of it already.
Yeah, they also have rules that are preventing new political ads from being submitted in the week before the election, right? However, if the ad is already good to go and has already been seen, it can continue running. So you can't do a new ad now, but if you had an ad a week ago, you can continue running that ad if you don't update it. So yeah, it's like a covert way of getting around the rules. It's like, yeah, no, Facebook says no more ads about the election the week before the election. But if I have an ad campaign that's been running from last month, I don't have to turn it off. So I can still run ads about the election, even though people are not allowed to run new ones.
And looking at the article and looking at that one clip of the video, though it does have a link to where you can look like you can watch the video. I wonder who owns the copyright to that girl that's screaming. And I wonder who it is, because she's all over in meme land. I mean,
No, that's there. I don't think there's a copyright on it. That was somebody took a picture or something and put it in the public domain.
It's meme. Memes tend to not be able to get copyrighted easily. So that whole prior use thing where you have to show.
so his plan is after he hopefully wins, he's going to put that up.
Well, what actually the woman who was screaming was actually, I think, out of a video. I think I saw the video after Hillary lost. They a bunch of the crazy, ugly women were screaming and, really interesting.
All right, so I've got the ad, but I got to fix audio. So give me 1 second. I'm going to unshare and reshare with audio. This one. Where'd the audio option go? Oh, I have to do a full screen one to get audio. Okay, we'll do that. Fine. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Screen.
Right, here's the ad.
It's morning in America.
Donald J. Trump is still president of the United States.
It's morning.
It's actually pretty funny. God.
Who makes his memes for him? I know there's a guy named Count Dankula. I think he sometimes retweet. Not Count Dankula. I'm sorry, a different guy. Oh, what is his name? Count Carpe Diem or something like that. Carpe Dankdom or something.
I have no idea. I'm not up on meme culture.
Everybody knows. Throw it in the chat.
Yeah, Count Dankula is a Scottish gay guy.
I know who he is. It's the first guy that came to mind. Yeah,
Maybe it's Carpe Diem.
That's what is the meme guy who Trump sometimes retweets. Carpe Diem or something. It was just close enough a name that I fucked it up.
Next article, I'm going to skip down a little bit as we're on politics, so I might as well continue with that. Brett Kavanaugh foreshadows how Supreme Court could disrupt vote counting.
As he writes here, there's not really an address of how the additional, I mean, one of the big things when it comes to mail-in ballots and how long after the election they should be considered, one of the issues has to do with the unprecedented volume of mail and mail-in ballots that we're going to see. Does he really address that adequately?
Well, we've known since, I think, late March that we were going to face the situation of a massive surge of absentee ballots, unlike in normal times. There are a lot of things to do to prepare for that. Actually, one of the things I've been doing for several months is encouraging people, if they're not particularly vulnerable, to vote in person. Because, or certainly to return their absentee ballots very early, not the last minute. And the reason is that given our political climate at the moment, I think it's safe to believe realistically that if the vote cannot be determined for 5 or 6 or 7 days in Pennsylvania and it's decisive in the election or a couple of other states, it's going to unfortunately be a very explosive situation. Social media is going to throw fuel on those fires. Candidates, particularly the president, is of course going to try to shut the process down. That's what he did in Florida when this happened in the governor's election there. And so it's a toxic culture in general. It will be
Adult Mel who uses the term toxic.
a clear result sooner rather than later. I think everyone recognizes that.
Kavanaugh actually cited one of your articles for the Chicago Law Review when he made his case, but you also write the policymakers need to give serious consideration to extending these receipt deadlines. What did you make of being included in Kavanaugh's opinion?
Well, it's a little uncomfortable to be part of the story here instead of talking about an opinion. In that article, I say what I just said to you now about this concern about not being able to get to account for a long time and what might ensue. I don't say anything there about what courts should do or shouldn't do about this, but I do say, as you rightly point out, that policymakers should consider extending these deadlines given the massive volume of absentee ballots we're going to get. Some states have done that, most states have not. Most states do still require absentee ballots to be received by election night to be treated as valid votes.
All right, so that's pretty much that. That way, I didn't have to talk about it. You guys can talk about it.
I mean, there's a big difference between what's called normal absentee ballots, even though there's a voter fraud with that woman gathering up the seniors' absentee ballots, and mail-in ballots, which are just sent out without an addressee. They just send them out. That means anybody could pick one up and they could vote as many times as they had ballots.
Yeah.
And the thing is that they were trying to change the entire way we're doing elections, and it doesn't work. Now, a couple of states actually do mail-in voting, and they've been set up for it for a long time.
Well, also
they verify it.
Also, just having a longer voting period. Like, I don't know how long it extended, but this entire week it looks like I could have, and I did this morning, go in and do early voting. So I went and did early voting, and when you have that much time to do it, people can spread their asses out to come in person. I just sanitize the hell out of my hands after I leave because unfortunately you have to sign shit. And they actually handed me one of those conductive styluses to use the voting machine. And it prints out a paper receipt, and then you take that off in an envelope and you put it in another box, which I'm assuming it scores both times so that if they have to do a count, they have a paper record.
Well, we have electronic voting machines in Harris County, and those I think are off. They're offline. The votes are recorded on each machine, and then the data is taken off of the machine.
Now, here's an interesting thing to see. I don't know what it is like when you go to vote, but usually it's all older people volunteering to run the voting machines and tell you which way to go and so forth.
Yeah.
So it's in some ways the most acceptable people are the volunteers that are in those areas the most.
That's a really good point, Adrian.
I don't know. Is it the same way where you all live? Where I live, it's all.
We actually had a thing on the news here about that. I think it was maybe a week or two ago, and they were just talking about how they have a lot fewer volunteers doing the polling this year because the old people don't want to do it because they're afraid they're going to get sick from COVID-19.
Yeah, I just walked in and did it. I think they had like 3 ladies doing the initial check-in and people guiding you to whichever machine you're supposed to use and putting in a code, and then you do the code and just continued on with it, and then prints out a receipt and they tell you what to do with that. I think they put it in an envelope and you take it over to someone else and you put that away after I think maybe signing another thing. It's a
clusterfuck. But
well, in Harris County, at least, I don't know about all of Texas, there are no receipts. I mean, your vote is cast and that's it. You're not even allowed. I mean, of course, you're not allowed to bring a cell phone or anything in there.
Oh.
You're not allowed to record how you voted. And
by the way,
later
by receipt, I don't mean one I kept, but when they put in an envelope, which I'm assuming they use later on, if there's some contention about the electronic side of the voting, that they can do a paper one.
Okay, I'm not sure how they do that in Harris County, but there was no receipt, on the voting machine.
Yeah, I went in this morning and I don't know, a little bit after 8 o'clock, and it was all pretty damn smooth.
I was just disappointed they don't have those "I voted" stickers anymore.
Oh, but they did it at my place.
I got one, and they've had early voting for 3 weeks in at least in Harris County here, but I guess in Texas it should be statewide. So that's not bad. I mean, I took care of that business the first week.
Yeah.
I mean, and a lot of people did because, anticipating a potential rioting and stuff like that, you want to get ahead of it.
And in anticipation of potential rioting, I just loaded up all my guns a few months ago. Well, not all of them, but.
Yeah, we're not allowed to bring them into the polling place.
Well, I'm not planning on going. Oh, you're worried about riots at the polling place.
Oh yeah, they do have, they've had it before. You have gangs of thugs hanging out in front of the polling places and intimidating. They don't like you. They'll give you a hard time before you can even walk in the place. I mean, mean guys with bats hanging out on the front steps.
That's not good.
That sounds like a job for the cops to break up.
If they're not breaking up a lot of the riots and stuff, they're not going to mess with those guys.
Yeah, I guess it depends where you're at.
Yeah, it's
not all cops every place have been told to stand down.
Another black person died in the news recently in custody of the police, and it's just going to start the riots again because I don't know the details of the case. I only heard that it happened today. And
okay, the last one I heard about was the one in Philadelphia where the person came at the cops with a knife and they shot him, and someone was crying in the back on some long lines of, "Why did you shoot him so many times? He's coming at with a knife." Also, I didn't have tasers, but if someone's coming at you with a knife, tasers aren't always effective.
In the courses and training that I've had, the distance an attacker, for you to pull a gun and shoot, if an attacker has a knife, he can traverse 19 feet before.
This case is the guy was. I just skimmed this so I could screw this up, but it seems that the guy had some mental health issues, but that was not the reason these things happened. He was a black man with a history of mental health problems. His mother called the police to get him put into like a psych ward. They don't have people who come out with them who are mental health specialists in this department in Portland, Oregon. They sorely need a behavioral health unit, but they don't have one. Police fatally shot Wallace, which is the name of the person who got killed.
That's in Philadelphia, right?
And Yep.
And he was a career criminal, so
He ignored orders to drop a knife, a death that intensified already heightened tensions in a presidential battleground state. His mother said she warned police Monday afternoon that her son was in the throes of a mental health crisis. In the days since, about 90 people have been arrested and 50 police officers injured in clashes with protesters and vandals.
Yeah, this sounds like the case I was talking about, which I think was a couple of days ago. I've seen the
Yeah,
video.
a couple of days ago. I just heard about it today. I've been trying to stay away from regular news. I'm just staying in the InfoSec scene, but I had to put together show notes, so I heard about this.
I appreciate that.
The scene erupted on the other side of the city, miles from his neighborhood, where protests were underway. The clashes come as Pennsylvania emerges as a key focus on the 2020 election, and it's a battleground state. It's got 20 electoral votes, and both candidates made frequent stops here. The unrest started Monday evening, shortly after Wallace was killed. It set off protests elsewhere, as far as Washington, D.C. and Brooklyn, even Portland. His family lawyer called for an ambulance to get him help with his mental health crisis. So it wasn't the mother who called, it was the family's lawyer, apparently. His wife, Dominique, is pregnant and was scheduled to be induced Wednesday. That sucks. They talked to the mother and father in the news, and Johnson. All right. So when you come to a scene where somebody is in a mental health crisis and the only tool you have to deal with it is a gun, where are the proper tools for the job? Said Johnson. I don't know who the heck Johnson is. I assume he's a cop. I'm not sure. Arguing that Philadelphia police officers are not trained to deal with mental health crises. If they don't have the training, they should definitely be getting it. The officers involved in the shooting were taken off street duty during the investigation. The officers' names and identifying information, along with their race, is being withheld. They are afraid it could be posing a threat to their safety if it's released. Neither of them were armed with a taser or any similar kind of device. They did note, however, the department has asked for funding to equip officers with these devices, which is probably not going to happen if we defund them, right? They won't be able to get them. If anything, it'll make them more dangerous because they'll still only have guns, but now they won't have anything else. I'm really I'm a weird one because I'm pro Black Lives Matter, but I'm also pro police. So I'm weird. And yeah. In my mind, I can't even sleep at night. I can't close my eyes, said Wallace. He's the father of the person who was killed. Of course, there is a video, because there's always a video now. The officers can be seen yelling for him to drop the knife. His mother and at least one other man followed him to get him to listen to officers, and he briskly walked across the street between cars. He advanced towards the officers with a knife, and they fired several shots. Like, if somebody's walking towards me with a knife and the only thing I have is a gun, what am I going to do? You know?
Shoot him.
Well,
first you try to de-escalate as best you can, but if he's walking towards you with a knife.
And they seem to be walking away from him for a bit, but he kept coming towards him, what I saw in the video, and, well.
Has anyone actually looked at what the cops were carrying on their bat belts? I mean, did they literally have nothing but guns?
The video's a little grainy, but it's out there if you want to find it.
I mean, it's like most cops I know have got gun, nightstick, taser, pepper spray. You know, I mean, it's not like, it sounds to me like, you know, all I had was a gun, you know, and nothing else. It's like, if that's true, then shit, yeah. I can understand someone coming at you with a knife and all you've got is a gun. You're not going to throw it at him.
I would use a taser first, but it said
Right,
right
exactly. If they had it, it would make sense to use non-lethal
or even
less lethal. Sorry.
they don't even have mace. What the hell? Anyway, it's a really fucked situation, and I really wish they would stop killing black people for whatever reason. I don't know.
I still have a heart. I hate to be that guy. I really do. But there's more than just black people getting killed. I mean, there are Hispanic people getting killed. There are Asian people getting killed. There are white people getting killed.
Actually,
it's the cops are out of fucking control. We've hyper-militarized a bunch of steroid-induced football players at a high school who didn't make the big leagues, and they're blowing people away. I mean, you say it's horrible and it's tragic, and you're 110% right. But, the guy who was laying on the floor drunk and couldn't understand what the cop was saying, he was unarmed, laying on the floor, half naked, drunk out of his mind, and the cop blew him away.
Sounds a little bit almost like Daniel Shaver. Daniel Shaver, apparently he was a pest control guy. He was aiming a pellet gun out the window, showing it to a friend. And the cops called him, and they're very cautious about coming into the room. And they asked him to come crawl out, but, he's drunk and his pants are falling off.
He was on the floor with his pants falling off and drunk.
So after you call forward and don't put your hands down, his pants are falling down, and eventually he gets shot. You don't hear much about Daniel Shaver. There's another guy named Tony Timpone. I believe was it Tony Timpone who got killed in a similar way. Well, similar incident to George Floyd in the sense that I think they used some kind of knee on the neck thing.
We had a guy here in Vegas who was a sandbox veteran who was off his meds and having a panic attack inside of his car, trying to get help, unarmed, sitting in his car, just having a flashback panic attack from Gulf War or what have you. And they opened up with him on AR-15 with AR-15s. Cops blew him away. It's like I feel for the people that say that it's unbalanced and we're killing more black people. The thing is, it's not a race to the bottom who has it worse. Cops are out there killing people. They're killing them with the same weapons that are being used to blow away kids in school shootings. But, they're just running wild with all of this militarized equipment, blowing people away. And the thing is, if you say anything other than Black Lives Matter, you get shouted down, you get shut down, you get called a racist, you get called a white supremacist, you get called a Trump supporter, you get called a communist. And it's insane. And the cops love it because it helps keep the pressure off of them, and they can keep blowing people away.
They're under a lot of pressure.
Well, sure, they're under a lot of pressure, but I mean, the thing is, you got to subscribe to the good cop, bad cop theory. I mean, there are the quote-unquote good cops, there are the quote-unquote bad cops. There are the cops that take off their uniforms and put on a white sheet and march down the street. There are cops who take off their uniform, go home to their families and cry. Okay, there are cops that give candy to kids, read them storybooks, and try to do the best in fucked up neighborhoods. And there are cops that run around throwing Sieg Heils and saying, I'm going to blow away any that I run into.
I've never heard someone say that.
All right, so I got something to interject here. My friend Michelle, her husband is a cop in New York City, and during the rioting and all the stuff that's been going on there, they took away their time off. Like normally they get 2 days off every week. Now they're working 6 days a week, and they're working like 12-hour shifts. And they took away their breaks during those shifts, and they're just treating these cops like not very well. And they really have no recourse. It's like, if you want to work, you want to have a job, you have to do these crazy shifts, and you get no sleep in between shifts because you're commuting from the city to Long Island and back. So you got like an hour and a half commute each way. And then you got your 12-hour shift. You got like 4 hours to sleep, if that. And then you got to go back. And I mean, they're going to break. It's like you can only.
It doesn't end when they go off duty. If you're a cop walking down the street, someone's going to say, hey, fuck the cops, and start coming at you. And, they're worried about their families. They're worried about their own asses.
But there
And,
are a lot of good people who happen to choose to be cops. There are also a lot of assholes who have like power trips and egos. And
Absolutely.
I would say the profession probably. I think most cops are good, but I would say there are probably some that are definitely choose it for the power trip.
Same thing with the fire department. Back when I was a volunteer, there were some guys there who were really awesome dudes, and then we had these assholes who were just there for the ego trip, and they cared about nobody but themselves and wanted everybody to worship the ground they walked on because they happened to be a city firefighter as well as a volunteer.
I saw some of that shit firsthand when I lived in Virginia. It's scary.
Yeah, agreed.
So the thing is, we're not going to get anywhere until we demilitarize the police.
I agree with you. It all goes back to the military-industrial complex.
But they got to have at least what weapons the civilians have.
Say again?
They have to have at least what weapons the civilians have.
Well, the civilians don't have armored personnel carriers.
No, that is true.
Okay, civilians don't have racks upon racks upon racks of automatic weapons, or even semi-automatic weapons.
They don't carry around automatic weapons unless it's a SWAT team of some kind.
I mean, I agree. You get some inner city shit, and you've got guys with Uzis, and you've got guys with AK-47s and shit like that. But I mean, that's
as far as what people got killed recently, other than the Daniel Shaver case, most of these have been either something other than a handgun or a handgun. At least the ones that got publicity. So is that the actual problem?
I don't think the problem is guns per se. I think the problem is the training doesn't exist right now for the police to handle a lot of situations that they encounter, and they have to kind of make up policy on the fly.
Well, they're not supposed to. I mean, there's a great political cartoon I saw about that. About people who are like, how are the police supposed to handle this? And it's like they're not. There's supposed to be mental health services. There's supposed to be homeless shelters. There's supposed to be, support for people who are in bad situations. The single mother with the boyfriend who punches her in the face every night. They're not police are supposed to be there to keep the peace. And we're supposed to have all this civic structure underneath supporting them, and it's not there anymore.
Right, and a lot of mental health services have been defunded or had their resources allocated elsewhere in communities. I used to work as a mental health counselor at a place called the Mental Health Association, and we would run several programs. One of them was called the ACT Team, Assertive Community Treatment, and these people were supposed to be mobilized and go with police to go like dangerous situations where there's somebody who's mentally ill. They're supposed to accompany them, and they're also supposed to work like with those kind of people outside of the scope of the police and help them get the resources that they need and check up on them. And like the program devolved from, they took out that whole part about helping the police, and it just became, we're going to check in on people who had been court mandated for treatment, and we're going to be like caseworkers for them. And the whole original design of the program was just redone and thrown out, and it became, this is now just a program for people who are on mental health court treatment where they have to check in with a counselor every week for whatever the fuck reason for a minute or two, and that's supposed to help them. And they no longer went with the police or did any trainings with the police or for the police on how to deal with mental health stuff because it got cut out of their budget because it got voted out of the proposals and the grants and all that stuff.
Well, there's another problem too, is that amongst a lot of departments, I mean, some in particular, I think Seattle was like one of the worst ones for that. They have very little training they get in certain circumstances. For example, de-escalation techniques. I mean, in some departments, you only get like 2 hours a year of some of those techniques, and that's not enough. I mean, you're talking about learning a technique that can be used to reduce the likelihood that force is going to be used in a encounter, and that's not something you can just teach in 2 fucking hours. It's just not. So it's there's a whole mental health versus that, but there's a lot of other bits of training that they're just not getting, whether that's because budget cuts, whether that's because of bad policy, whether that's because of political pressure, what have you, and that's something that has to be changed.
I agree. I think there are a lot of gaps, and look, a lot of the people who are for the defund the police movement, they don't understand that a lot of police are already underfunded and don't have the means to get training and materials and things they need to do their jobs properly. And even the police departments that are like well funded might be able to better utilize their resources, don't necessarily get to because of political bullshit. So we have a lot of police who don't have the training they need to do the jobs, the situations they're put in. Not necessarily the scope of the job that they took, but the job that they now have. They have to deal with the person who's mentally ill running at them with a knife, right? They don't have the training to deal with that. They don't know how to de-escalate. They don't know what to say. They are trained to keep law and order, not to deal with these kind of situations. And what I think we're all agreeing is that even both sides, there needs to be reform, but the way that we handle the reform is being pushed at from two different angles. Some people want to completely dissolve police departments and replace them with community services, which is
that's fucking stupid.
In my opinion, it's stupid. Even if you have a corrupt police force, you could get rid of them, replace them with the stateies for a while until you get a new police force or something. But you don't get rid of all police and say now we have counselors to deal with.
Not wholesale. That can be a case for some of it or part of it, but not for wholesale. That's just stupid.
I think we need to have assertive community programs in place that can deal with a lot of the situations that get laid on the police right now. Like we need to have people who can work with the mentally ill, who can not just that, but like say you run into a domestic violence situation. The police can arrest the guy, but then he gets out the next day and goes and beats the shit out of the wife again. How did that help, right? You need to have like a counselor who comes to the house the same way you have like child protective services come to a house and check in on the wife and make sure that she's okay and get her the resources she needs to leave him if that's what she wants to do, or to if she's going to stay and stick it out and she's getting the crap kicked out of her every day, at least make sure she knows how to defend herself or something. I don't know.
That's not going to happen. When you've worked with those kind of people, once they start getting the shit kicked out of them, they'll say anything and do anything to stop them from getting the shit kicked out of them. And they'll lie to you and they'll say, no, I'm okay. I'm fine. You don't need to teach me to defend myself.
So what
and, 10 minutes later, they spill ketchup in the kitchen and they're getting the shit kicked out of themselves again.
So what you're talking about is a mental health concept called learned helplessness. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It happens to victims frequently where they are helpless because of the situation they're in. And since they are unable to get out of it, they just kind of say, fuck it and accept it like a mouse would if you kept shocking it over and over again. And like, fuck this shit. I'm just not going to get up. Keep shocking me. It's sad, but
the other thing too, that when people talk about dissolving the police departments and replacing them and all that, you need to take a step back and look at the history. Take a good read at the Tammany Hall riots, which led to the creation of the NYPD. And imagine that happening now. Okay, back in the olden days, before the NYPD was established, there were two different police forces protecting New York and New York City. And the thing is, depending on who you went to, you got treated differently. You got better treatment from here than there. And these guys would protect you. And those guys wouldn't do anything. We will. And it almost became vigilante policing. And it came to a head with the Tammany Hall riots. I don't think we need that. That's something we seriously don't need right now. The thing is that we could fix this. But the thing is, there's so many forces going against us. The police unions, the civilian review boards, which have absolutely no power. I mean, we've totally gotten away from the concept of the police serving the community. And they're independent of the community. The community can say, shut them down. They just laugh. You try to prosecute them, the police union steps in. The things that I've suggested here locally that some people have taken very seriously is to have a police officer have to be bonded and insured like any other professional that deals with the public. And what happens is if they fuck up and they blow some kid away that they're not supposed to, guess what? If they slip through the system, their insurance goes up. If they can't pay their premium, they can't be a cop. Just like if you're a drunk driver after your 5th DUI, you can't afford your insurance anymore. You don't have your license. Just like if you're a doctor and you fuck up and your malpractice insurance goes through the roof. So and the thing is, it also moves the liability off of the taxpayers. Right now, a cop does an unjustified shoot and the taxpayers pay millions of dollars to the victim. How is that right? You know what I mean? Make the individual officers carry their insurance. If they screw up, the money comes out of that insurance policy, not out of the coffers of the city. And then, what you'll end up with is it'll be self-regulating. The police that continuously fuck up can't be cops anymore.
Or you put the insurance under the union, so that way if a cop fucks up, the union will protect him. Because if it was if it's just someone who's being an ambulance chaser, yeah, okay, sure. But if a cop is fucking up and causing issues for the union, they're not going to protect his ass anymore. They're going to kick him out.
They will. There's a history as long as my Johnson of that kind of thing happening here.
No,
in Vegas.
not if there's a serious financial implication for them, because he keeps having insurance.
There is no financial implication to them.
No,
the taxpayers are paying it.
No. I'm saying the insurance is covered by the union.
The union will make it so that the claim will never go through. The union does more to cover up shit for cops than anything else.
That's not the union. That's up to the insurance company, though.
You have to understand the power police unions have. Okay, I mean, you could walk into a cop could walk into a room and blow away 5 people, and go to the union and be protected. It's just that simple. He'd never see a day in court. He'd get a paid vacation for 2 weeks, maybe early retirement with full pension, and have a nice day.
What world do you live in? No, it doesn't. That extreme does not happen. Holy shit.
Well, I mean, not as extreme as walking into a room and blowing people away. No, but I mean, I've seen things out here. We have problems out here in Vegas with police profiling, stalking, going to people's houses and fucking with them. And God help you if you ride a motorcycle in Las Vegas. Because it doesn't matter if you're white, black, orange, yellow, pink, or green, you're going to get fucked with. And they will put you up against the wall and they will say, you have to tell us about the gang you're part of. And you're like, dude, I just bought this Harley, 2 weeks ago for my birthday. Fuck you. And, I've been places where the North Las Vegas police put a gun in my face for no fucking reason while I was obeying a lawful order. And it got buried and nothing ever came of it. I mean, my brains could have been a Jackson Pollock on the side of a building while I was leaving a party. The police came, they broke up the party. They said, everybody go home. I'm like, I'm following this order. I'm going home. Cop jumps out of the bushes with a gun in my face. What are you doing? I'm obeying a legal order. I need to be, I'm leaving, but you have 4 cop cars blocking in my car. And it's like, why do you have a gun on me? Well, how do I know you don't have one? I'm like, feel free. It's like, I'm right here with my hands in the air. You go ahead. That's not justice. That's not police. That's not protecting. And when I went and complained about it, it got buried and like it never existed. I had a friend of mine who used to have his hoopty pulled over and searched for drugs every time he took it out of the backyard because he was Hispanic. He sold it and got a Prius. They never bothered him again. They tore that car up and down for years looking for drugs. And he wasn't even a drug dealer. He wasn't even a drug user. He was just a professional drinker. And they a Hispanic guy in a hoopty. Yeah, it's got to be drugs. And they were tearing that shit apart. And he loved his car. But you know what? As soon as he sold it, he stopped getting harassed. Try and file a harassment complaint like that against the police. See how far it gets. See what happens when the union steps in.
So I actually wanted to bring up a kind of a case about community policing, right? So in Brooklyn, we have the Hasidic Jews, a lot of them there, and they were getting messed with for years, and the police would not do shit, right? They would not help them, and they were getting victimized, and so they formed their own police, right? They're not really actually police, but they're like community policing. They're guards, or whatever you want to call them, but they act like the police there, and they even have ties with the real police, and they have become super corrupt. They started out like to protect the Jewish people there who were getting constantly fucked with, but they became very, very corrupt to the point where they even beat the shit out of a black dude. And rather than have the people, like they took a stick and they just beat him, a whole bunch of guys. And rather than like these people facing the music, the whole community pulled together and got them tickets to go to freaking Israel, so they wouldn't have to deal with it. That's just one thing. The article I found here goes through a whole bunch of shit that happened, but the general gist is they've kind of become bullies. They're forcing not only people from outside the neighborhood to like leave, but they're also treating people within the neighborhood like suspects and like doing things way beyond the scope of the powers that are assigned to them. And yeah, man, it's not good stuff. So when community policing does become a thing, they kind of have to look at how it's already been rolled out in places and try not to make the same mistakes where we give a bunch of people a lot of power and not a lot of oversight, and they start becoming corrupt assholes. Yeah, this article was in the Times like 4 years ago, so I'll put it in the show notes if anyone wants to read it. It's kind of long. But yeah, that's just one thing I wanted to bring up is, you know, we all talk about how we need to have community policing and we need to, you know, take power away from the police and give it to other people, but we have to make sure we don't make some of the same mistakes other people have made when they tried to do that. And that's all I have to say about that. Any thoughts on that? Done?
I'm pretty thoughtless. We might talk about a little bit after the show, but let's go on and finish up the notes because I gotta get sleep and get to work tomorrow.
Right. You have work? I thought you were on vacation.
I work from home. I was on vacation 3 days of last week because I planned it for GurCon, but then of course GurCon didn't happen.
Gotcha. All right, so we'll jump forward. We only got a few more things, and I'm gonna just kind of zoom through a bunch of them. All right. So in the UK, right, just like here, if you buy a new cell phone, it's usually locked to the provider. The UK has now made that illegal, and going forward, the providers cannot lock cell phones to them. They have to sell unlocked phones. All right. Next, we have a study that comes from Ars Tech that shows which messengers are leaking your data, which ones are draining your battery, and more. You can take a look at that study if this is something that interests you. The link is in the show notes. Cyberpunk 2077 was delayed yet again. It was supposed to come out this month. Now they're saying maybe 2 more months, maybe a year. Who knows? It'll come out eventually, and we'll play it. And we will be upset that it's not as good as Witcher 3. Next, we have Ubuntu Gorilla adds official Raspberry Pi support as a first-class citizen. So up till now, if you had a Raspberry Pi and you wanted to run Linux on it, you had to run Raspbian. Going forward, you can run a full release of Ubuntu that is not specific to just the Raspberry Pi ARM64 architecture. However, the packages and the deb files and all that crap you're going to pull down are, of course, going to be platform-specific for your Raspberry Pi and not the x86, x64 versions.
Actually, what that is they now have a desktop version instead of before you had to run the server version on the Raspberry Pi.
Correct. Next, we got Monero. It reached a 2-year high, gaining 200%. There's an article in CoinDesk about that if you're interested in cryptocurrency. AMD is buying a Chinese chipmaker called Xilinx for $35 billion. Xilinx, I'm probably saying that wrong, but that's how it looks like it's said. They are a competitor of Intel. Yada yada. They make programmable processors that have high-speed specialized tasks for things like video decryption. So it sounds to me like they are what are they called? ASICs. And ASICs are reprogrammable chips for specific applications. Next, Burger King screwing with people in the UK because it's funny. If you are in specific, actually it's Sweden. If you are in specific McDonald's, wrong. If you're in a Burger King, right, and it's in Sweden, and you look in the mirror in the bathroom and you say "canceled clown" 3 times, a ghetto Ronald McDonald shows up in the mirror somehow through magic. I don't know. It's part of a stunt. It's like a marketing thing, a canceled clown thing. This is what it looks like. It's like a smart mirror.
Cancel clown. Cancel clown. Cancel clown.
Like there he is at the end. He's in the mirror. You only had him for like a split second and then it cut off. Come on, just a few frames more. We can do it. There he is. Come on. Right about there. There he is. That's kind of freaking creepy. I don't know. I guess this is probably like only one McDonald's, I imagine. Burger King. Sorry, I keep messing it up because it's Ronald McDonald or a knockoff of them there. Anyway, funny shit. Moving forward. This one is an article I'm actually going to cover because I thought it was awesome. So let me just show you the video so I don't have to talk about it.
We've seen our fair share of stupid acts here on A Current Affair, but 2 would-be car thieves had no idea who they were messing with when they allegedly took on a Tesla and its owner, Annabelle.
I've got the police coming for you.
You might be watching Australia's dumbest thieves in action.
I gave them a serve.
Caught red-handed, attempting to steal Annabelle's Tesla.
I was getting ready for work and was about to get in the shower. My phone started beeping. So I checked my alerts and it said that my car alarm was going off. I was a bit nervous to go down myself. So I sent my big burly friend who's staying with me and he went to assess the situation and the car was gone.
This CCTV footage capturing the moment a car makes its way into Annabelle's garage. A man in a black hoodie is spotted lurking around her Tesla, his face in full view. Another man who clearly missed the memo to go incognito is then seen attempting to open the car. He removes a handbag from Annabelle's car and puts it in the other vehicle. He then gets in the Tesla and it vanishes. Annabelle turns straight to her Tesla car app.
On my car phone app, which is the key, you can actually see where the car is. We noticed that it was just around the corner. So without thinking, jumped in the car, called the police, and just basically followed them on the map.
Feisty Annabelle began filming her pursuit. The electric vehicle's technology proving you don't want to mess with a smart car.
My phone app has the ability to slow down the car and also mess with it a bit. So I was able to put the windows down, beat the horn, and basically screw with them while they were driving it. I've got the police coming for you. They did not think through the fact that in 2020 everything is filmed.
The Canberra radio presenter turned vigilante led police right to the alleged perpetrators. You can see the driver, sporting his high-vis, jump out of Annabelle's Tesla and get into the getaway car we saw earlier. But not before Annabelle gets the number plate on camera. And as if they hadn't already embarrassed themselves enough.
And I'm just about to drive away and I realised they left their toolbox here too. Really sharp tools. Obviously they were filmed by everything. So the car films inside when anybody tries to get in it as well and outside. And when I was cleaning the car later today, I noticed that one of them left his driver's license in an envelope that was addressed to himself in the driver's seat.
As funny as this incredible story is, the joke is now on the men captured on CCTV and Annabelle's own videos. She's handed the information to Canberra police.
That's it. All right, there's more. You can watch it yourselves. That's the gist. I think it's pretty cool. I think the app should actually have a button to stop the freaking car instead of just slow it down, but still pretty neat. The fact that he left his license behind just shows what a smart criminal he is. I guess nobody has anything to say about that, so I'll move forward. Nature shit. All right, this is a section just for this week because I had a lot of nature shit. So first, habitable zone, Earth-sized exoplanet found. It's called TESS. No, it's found with Planet Hunter TESS, which is like so not a radio telescope. It's in the sky. I know nothing about this stuff. It seems interesting. If this is something you are interested in,
from
take a look at
thousands
it.
of stars.
It's like, yep, new planet. It might be habitable. Very cool. Go check it out if you're an astronomy buff. Also, relating to space shit, they found some more water on the moon. It seems to be frozen under what appears to be glass that was formed from asteroid impacts. Next, that same water that was found on the moon might be able to sustain a lunar base, according to 2 papers in the Journal of Nature Astronomy. This goes with the first article. I'm talking about that exoplanet that they found. K2 288 BB. Yep. Very cool. More shit. Very techie stuff. Next thing is kind of related to this stuff because it's a satellite that's in space, but I put it here anyway. So Elon Musk's pet project SpaceX is offering internet through a service called Starlink, and it's $99 a month, and it's supposed to be comparable to broadband despite being satellite access.
Okay, because in the past, I know most satellites have been pretty damn slow on the uplink.
Yeah, I say it's faster, but you still have the latency, but you have a faster, like a bigger tunnel, more throughput to shove shit down through it.
I know Tim Pool's living going to be having a studio in a more rural area, and he's looking for something a little bit better than,
Like they can do 50 to 150 and 20 to 40 up. So 50 to 150 down, 20 to 40 up. That should be enough for a podcast to upload. We also got Hurricane Zeta is coming. It's moving towards the Gulf Coast as of October 26th. It might have already moved there because it's been a few days. It's the 28th now, so that was 2 days ago. So there's probably some updates to this. It's an older article. It's the 7th storm of the 2020 season. It's over by the Gulf of Mexico. It's big. It might hit Louisiana. Yada yada yada. Okay.
It already hit as a category 2.
Oh, see, I didn't even know. And the last thing we've got today is in Australia. They found a new coral reef that is as large, tall as the Empire State Building. It's pretty tall. It's like that. Little infographic did my job for me.
We're diving on a newly discovered or newly mapped 500-meter high coral reef.
Sebastian. And with that, we're going to end the Irongeek podcast, or at least open it up to discussion and then end it.
Yep. Notes. Oh.
And so what's up, dogs? How y'all doing? What up, Andy Delchi? Can you take a dump somewhere or something?
I'm gonna put that on the screen.
Coral.
Sorry, I was messing with some people auto dialing me for my exclusive Marriott vacation that's being held for me.
Excellent. I like messing with auto dialers too.
I need to mail you out here shortly for different reasons.
There was a thing a while back about a guy who set up an entire IP phone infrastructure in the cloud.
Yeah.
With scammers.
Well, earlier today I got a call about my car warranty.
I get that call almost every day.
This poor guy in India is trying to look up a 2008 Toyota Give a Shit.
Yeah, I kind of want to get a new car. Unfortunately, apparently, I like my Honda Fit. It's a 2007. I wanted to get another new Honda Fit, lower mileage and not as much stuff that's broken on the outside. But apparently, this is going to be the last year the Honda Fit will be available in America.
And then you got to get the Honda Unfit. Or the Honda.
Now, okay, I gotta say, as someone who does scam baiting, be really careful about answering those phone calls with your personal number. There have been cases of scammers because they usually have your private information already available, like they have your name, your address, etc., because they buy that shit wholesale. Where they'll retaliate against you if you're fucking with them. So they'll like SWAT you and shit. Yeah, no, like this. Yeah, so especially the tech support scammers because they're outright criminals. Probably not so likely to happen with warranty scammers. Just be careful.
Guys, I think I want to go off air because we want to talk to you about a couple of things, but I think everybody, you all have a good night and see y'all next Wednesday.
All right. Have a good one.
All right. Time to take your pants off.